Chapter 1924. Tragic Ice Butterfly. Chapter 1924. Tragic Ice Butterfly. Attack! The armored man pointed his spear at the snow-white butterfly and said coldly. The hundreds of Earth Immortal experts behind him dispersed and charged towards the snow-white butterfly. Even in midair, they released bedazzling dermic treasures. Phew! Essence chi surged in the mine tunnel. Many Earth Immortals did not dare to be careless and condensed greater divine powers right away to release. Although he was facing a seemingly weak butterfly, the armored man had no intention of holding back. He channeled his essence spirit and his spear shone with a blinding light. The entire mine tunnel rumbled and trembled continuously, as though it would collapse the next moment and bury all living beings beneath. A terrifying divine power burst forth. Although Zimo did not recognize that divine power, he could instantly tell from its might that it was a supreme divine power. This person was indeed a heaven immortal expert. In a battle of this level, even the aftershock could severely injure or even kill him. However, there was no way out behind him. Although the Hell Suppression Tripod could defend against head-on attacks, it did not have a lid after all and could not protect him in a truly chaotic battlefield. Suddenly, the snow-white butterfly in midair flapped its wings. Under the pair of wings that were not big, two terrifying cold currents could be seen with the naked eye. They were white and filled with fog. Crack, crack, crack. The temperature in the mine tunnel dipped and a chilling intent spread. Before many dermic treasures descended, they were covered by a layer of frost and froze in midair. Many divine powers and secret skills were frozen by the frost chi as well. Even the supreme divine power released by the only heaven immortal expert, the armored man, could not neutralize the power of the two cold currents. All radiance was extinguished. Ice crystals formed on the spear of the armored man and extended along the body of the spear towards his palm, arm and even his entire body. It was too fast. By the time the armored man reacted, his palm had already frozen with the spear. Retreat! The armored man's expression changed as he roared. Unfortunately, it was too late. A snow-white cold current surged over and the hundreds of Earth Immortal experts in midair were frozen. Their bodies were filled with frost and ice crystals, as though they were frozen into human-shaped ice sculptures. The expressions on the faces of the ice sculptures and the fear in their eyes froze, as though everything was frozen in the past. Zimo was dumbfounded. Initially, he was worried that he would be implicated in the battle. To think that the moment the snow-white butterfly attacked with the two cold currents, none of the dermic treasures or any powers could penetrate its body. Hundreds of human-shaped ice sculptures began to fall. The snow-white butterfly flapped its wings once more. Bang, bang, bang. The human-shaped ice sculptures exploded one after another. Right in front of Zimo, many Earth Immortal experts shattered into snow-white ice butterflies that floated down slowly. There was no blood at all and the ice butterflies danced in a tragic manner. There were hundreds of Earth Immortal experts but all of them died in the blink of an eye with their essence spirits destroyed. Hiding in the Hell Suppression Tripod, Zimo could not help but shudder. The only one alive in the mine tunnel was the armored man at the Heaven Essence realm. However, the Heaven Immortal expert did not feel good either after the two attacks of the snow-white butterfly. A layer of ice formed on his spear and armor as well. It was cold and almost froze him completely. Boom! Circulating his blood chi, the armored man roared and shuddered, breaking free from the ice layer. Countless ice shards shattered and flew everywhere. The armored man's face was pale as he coughed a few times. The blood he spat out was blood-colored ice blocks the size of fingernails that emitted cold air. Swoosh! He had a horrified expression as he turned to flee without hesitation. He released an escape technique and disappeared into the ground. The group of them arrived quickly but left even faster. Hundreds of Earth Immortal experts died and the only Heaven Immortal escaped with serious injuries. The snow-white butterfly was sealed in this essence spirit mine and had slept for countless years. It had just awakened today and its combat strength had yet to recover to its peak. Otherwise, even the armored man would not be able to escape death. The snow-white butterfly was so terrifying. It was no wonder why the Green Cloud County governor would rush over personally when an ancient living being was dug out from the mine. Instead of chasing after the armored man, the snow-white butterfly turned around and faced Su Zimo. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. If the snow-white butterfly wanted to kill him, it would not even have to attack twice. A single flap of its wings was enough. The snow-white butterfly flapped its wings but did not release any killing moves. Instead, it arrived before Su Zimo in the blink of an eye. The man and butterfly were merely inches apart as they exchanged glances. Pausing for a moment, the snow-white butterfly circled around Su Zimo a few times, as though it sensed something, but did not attack him. Su Zimo did not move at all as he tried his best to compose himself. "I had no intention of disturbing you, Senior. I only alarmed you by a freak coincidence." Su Zimo forced a smile and explained. The snow-white butterfly remained silent and ignored Su Zimo. After circling a few times, it flew close to Su Zimo's injured calf. It was only then that Su Zimo recalled that his calf was cut by the spider silk and was poisoned. He lowered his head and could not help but freeze slightly. Before the battle earlier on, the poison in the wound on his calf had already spread and extended to his entire thigh. But now, the poison lingered in his thigh and did not continue spreading. Su Zimo could sense how terrifying that poison was. However, his green lotus true body could not defend against it at all. Now that the poison was controlled, it was clear that it was caused by external forces. On second thought, he guessed the reason. Because of the awakening of the snow-white butterfly, the temperature in the mine tunnel was extremely low. The body of the green lotus true body was also corroded by the cold qi and his bloodline was almost frozen. Under such circumstances, the poison could not spread. The snow-white butterfly hovered around his calf and flapped its wings. With every flap, a stream of cold air would surge into Su Zimo's thigh. Under the influence of the poison, his thigh had already turned purple-black. But now, the purplish-black color on his thigh was fading bit by bit. At the same time, purplish-black blood oozed from the wound with a nauseating stench. Su Zimo was delighted when he saw that. The cold air was even stronger than the scarlet blood spider's poison. The snow-white butterfly was healing him. Before long, the poisoned blood in the wound on his calf was completely drained. He had already regained feeling on his entire thigh. Without the corrosion of the poison, the terrifying regeneration capabilities of the green lotus true body reappeared and the wound closed rapidly. Before long, he would recover to his original state. "Thank you, Senior." Su Zimo expressed his thanks hurriedly. If not for the snow-white butterfly's help in purging the poison, this green lotus true body might have been crippled completely. Chapter 1925. Green Cloud County Governor. Chapter 1925. Green Cloud County Governor. After purging the poison from Su Zimo's leg, the snow-white butterfly circled around him a few more times, lingering uncertainly as though it was hesitant. Although the snow-white butterfly did not say anything, Su Zimo could sense some anxiety and worry from it. This butterfly was so strong. What was it worried about? Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he recalled some of the conversations from before. The Green Cloud County Governor was even here personally for this spirit mine incident. He was a perfected immortal expert. However, the snow-white butterfly had just awakened and had yet to recover its strength completely. It should be worried about the Green Cloud County Governor. Su Zimo naturally hoped that the snow-white butterfly could stay by his side. With such an ancient living being as a companion, he could even head to the entire Green Cloud County, let alone Glass City. However, Su Zimo knew very well that this snow-white butterfly would definitely become a public enemy after its awakening. The power of the entire Green Cloud County would come and encircle it. At that time, even he might be destroyed by that power, let alone the snow-white butterfly. As Su Zimo pondered, the snow-white butterfly flapped its wings and floated into the distance, disappearing into the mine before long. Su Zimo still felt a sense of disappointment when he saw the butterfly leave. Dai Yu's true form was the butterfly race. Therefore, Su Zimo could not help but have a good impression of the snow-white butterfly. Furthermore, he guessed that the reason why the snow-white butterfly was willing to heal him might be because it sensed the aura of someone of the same race from him. "Go on, I hope you can escape this calamity." Su Zimo looked in the direction of the snow-white butterfly and murmured, "I wonder if we'll meet again in the future." After that battle, The mine was reduced to ruins with corpses strewn everywhere. Among the corpses, there were some shattered ice blocks. Those ice blocks were the corpses of the hundreds of Earth Immortal experts earlier on. Although the temperature in the mine had returned to normal after the snow-white butterfly left for a period of time, the ice did not melt. Su Zimo could see some storage bags through the ice. The storage bags of hundreds of Earth Immortal experts were not a small fortune. However, after pondering for a long time, Su Zimo decided against touching those items. This place was not far from Glass City. More and more powerful cultivators were rushing over. He did not know if he could escape successfully. If he took away the hundreds of storage bags, there was a high chance that he would cause unexpected trouble. After checking carefully and ensuring that there was no danger ahead, Su Zimo headed outside. County Governor, you sure are capable. That scarlet blood spider killed hundreds of thousands of people and nearly 10,000 of my cultivators. If not for you, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Outside the mine, the city lord of Glass City, Lu Yu, bowed slightly towards a middle-aged man in long robes. The middle-aged man had gray hair and stood motionlessly in midair with his hands behind his back. His eyes were deep and he exuded a dignified aura. This was the Green Cloud County Governor, Perfected Immortal Jing Yu. When Perfected Immortal Jing Yu heard that something had happened to Glass City, he used a teleportation formation to arrive here right away. The moment he attacked, he captured a scarlet blood spider alive. Perfected immortal living beings were filled with treasures. Even if he could not subdue the scarlet blood spider, he would benefit immensely if he killed it. Jing Yu was in no hurry to deal with the scarlet blood spider. Instead he came here. On the other side, the armored man who managed to escape from the killing move of the snow-white butterfly had a pale expression and was describing the scene in the mine softly. If I'm not wrong, it should be an ice butterfly. Perfected Immortal Jing Yu said in a deep voice. Most of the butterflies are weak and don't pose much of a threat. However, there are also some experts among them. The strongest are from the Emperor Butterfly lineage, followed by the Ice Butterfly lineage. I'm guessing that there's a high chance this ice butterfly was at the Perfected One realm before it was sealed. Perfected One realm cultivators were perfected immortals. In other words, this ice butterfly was once a perfected immortal level living being. Lu Yu, the armored man and the others were nervous. Perfected Immortal Jing Yu smiled gently. You guys don't have to worry. This ice butterfly has been sealed for countless years and has just awakened. It'll take a long time for it to recover to its peak. Given the methods displayed by this ice butterfly, it should still be at the Heaven Immortal realm. There's nothing to fear. Perfected Immortal Jing Yu said in a deep voice. Lu Yu, spread my orders. Mobilize the guards of Glass City and the Earth Execution Guards to search for the ice butterfly. This ice butterfly can't have gone far. Report to me the moment you have any news. Perfected Immortal Jing Yu had set up an impenetrable trap to try his best and track down the ice butterfly. Although Green Cloud County was huge, the ice butterfly was too obvious a target. Unless it escaped from Green Cloud County, it would be difficult for the ice butterfly to avoid Perfected Immortal Jing Yu's detection. As though he recalled something, Lu Yu instructed one of his personal guards and whispered, everyone beneath the mine is dead, including hundreds of Earth Immortal. Go down and tidy up the battlefield. Most importantly, retrieve the storage bags of the hundreds of Earth Immortals. Understood. The personal guard hollered. Perfected Immortal Jing Yu was prepared to leave as well. Right then, he suddenly stopped in his tracks and turned around slowly. He looked at the mining area not far beneath him and frowned slightly. What's wrong? Lu Yu asked hurriedly when he saw Perfected Immortal Jing Yu's strange expression. Perfected Immortal Jing Yu pointed to a mine pit not far away and asked, that ice butterfly was dug out from this mine? It's absolutely true. The armored man said hurriedly, hundreds of cultivators under my lead, including grade 9 Earth Immortals, were killed by this ice butterfly. There's no mistake about it. In that case, there shouldn't be anyone alive in this mine. Perfected Immortal Jing Yu said softly. They're definitely all dead. Before the armored man could speak, Lu Yu said, the people in this mine are all lowlifes of the Black Immortal realm. There can only be ghosts remaining after such powerful living beings were dug out. Ghosts. Perfected Immortal Jing Yu glared at the mine tunnel not far away with a fake smile. County Governor, you mean to say that there's someone alive inside? Lu Yu asked with a puzzled expression. Before his sentence was finished, a figure could vaguely be seen limping out of the mine. When Su Zimo arrived at the entrance of the cave, he sensed that something was amiss. There were many powerful auras outside. However, at the same time, he sensed one of the strongest auras locking onto him. At that moment, it was too late for him to retreat. Su Zimo could only grit his teeth and walk out. Outside the mine, many experts stood in the air. There were Earth Immortals, Heaven Immortals, the armored man who escaped and the City Lord of Glass City. At that moment, all of them looked at Su Zimo in disbelief with widened eyes. It was as though they had seen a ghost. At the front of the figures stood a gray-haired middle-aged man who was looking at Su Zimo with interest and bright eyes. Chapter 1926. Hunting Meat. Chapter 1926. Hunting Meat. How is that possible? In midair, the armored man was shocked. Two extremely terrifying living beings were dug out from the mine and the snow-white butterfly almost killed him. Even a Heaven Immortal like him nearly died in the mine, but this black immortal before him walked out alive. Interesting. Perfected Immortal Jing Yu chuckled. Report your name. The City Lord of Glass City, Lu Yu, asked in a deep voice. There was no way Su Zimo could leave this place in front of such a situation and everyone. He could only maintain his composure and cupped his fists. I'm Su Zimo and I came from the lower worlds. Greetings, exalted immortals. So you're a lowlife. When they heard Su Zimo's words, many experts pouted their lips with disdain in their eyes. The weakest cultivators present were Earth Immortals. Although Su Zimo was a grade 9 black immortal, he was not worthy of their attention. Su Zimo saw everyone's reaction. The environment of the upper world was even more difficult than he had imagined. No matter what achievements one had in the lower worlds, no matter how many heavenly tribulations they had passed to ascend, no matter how talented they were, as long as they were from the lower worlds, they would be mocked, jeered, humiliated and even enslaved here. That was because in the eyes of those cultivators of the upper world, they did not treat cultivators who ascended as humans at all. Su Zimo remained silent. Given his current cultivation, it was impossible for him to protect himself, let alone change the situation. Lu Yu sized up Su Zimo with a sharp gaze and did not find anything unusual. This grade 9 black immortal was extremely ordinary and even looked scholarly, like a harmless scholar of the mortal world. Su Zimo had long hidden the bloodline of his Green Lotus true body. On the Dragon Abyss star, even if he revealed his Green Lotus bloodline, no one might recognize him. However, it was different on Divine Firmament Mainland. Furthermore, the gray-haired man in the lead was unfathomable, and was most likely the legendary Green Cloud County Governor. How did a black immortal like you manage to come out alive? Lu Yu narrowed his eyes and asked coldly. He exuded the might of a Heaven Immortal expert, as though he would attack and kill Su Zimo the moment the latter replied wrongly. Glass City was an important city under the jurisdiction of Green Cloud County. Anyone who could become the City Lord of Glass City was naturally decisive to kill and their hands were stained with countless blood. It's probably luck. I truly only managed to survive by chance. Su Zimo had a calm expression. Initially, I was about to be killed by a blood-colored spider. Unexpectedly, a snow-white butterfly suddenly awakened and these two ancient living beings fought. Su Zimo recounted the scene beneath the mine but skipped the part about the snow-white butterfly healing him. There were no falsehoods in his words. When Su Zimo said it, it gave off the feeling that he was lucky to survive because he was not involved in the battle between the two living beings. Bullshit! Lu Yu suddenly shouted. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. However, he calmed down quickly and met Lu Yu's gaze with a calm expression. Actually, Lu Yu merely had a vague feeling that something was amiss with what Su Zimo said. However, he could not pinpoint exactly what was wrong. How dare a lowlife be dishonest in front of me? Lu Yu extended his palm and a tremendous amount of essence qi gathered, surrounding Su Zimo instantly and pulling the latter to his side. The power of a Heaven Immortal was way too strong for Su Zimo to defend against. Let's see what's in your soul's memories. With a cold expression, Lu Yu was prepared to capture Su Zimo's essence spirit and use the soul-searching art. He would rather kill the wrong person than let them off. Against a grade 9 black immortal who was a lowlife, Lu Yu released the soul-searching art without any pressure or reservations. Su Zimo's gaze was cold. If his soul was searched, all his secrets would be exposed. The only thing he could do was to self-destruct his essence spirit. Forget it. Right then, perfected Immortal Jingyu suddenly said, "Leave this person to me." Lu Yu was slightly stunned. "County Governor, I feel that there's something strange about this lad. He might have some secrets on him. Why don't I search his soul before handing him over? After enduring the soul-searching art, even if he doesn't die, he's basically crippled." Perfected Immortal Jingyu said indifferently, "What's the use of having a cripple? County Governor, you want to?" Lu Yu's heart skipped a beat as he guessed Perfected Immortal Jingyu's intentions. Perfected Immortal Jingyu ignored Lu Yu and looked at Su Zimo. "You're indeed lucky to be able to walk out of such a mine alive. I'll give you another chance. If you're still so lucky and survive, I'll give you a huge opportunity." "Thank you, County Governor." Su Zimo bowed in thanks and lowered his head. He did not let down his guard, nor was he grateful to the Green Cloud County Governor. Although the Green Cloud County Governor saved him, it was clear that he had other motives. He did not know if it was good or bad. "Take him away first and guard him well." Perfected Immortal Jingyu said, "I'll wait here for a few more days to search for that ice butterfly." Before long, more than 10 Earth Immortal guards arrived beside Su Zimo and escorted him towards Glass City. Although the Earth Immortal guards did not lock Su Zimo's limbs, they did not leave his side the entire time and did not give him any chance to escape. Su Zimo frowned slightly. It would have been fine if there were only 1 or 2 Earth Immortals. He would have been able to escape with some methods. However, there was no way he could escape alive against the watch of more than 10 Earth Immortals, including a grade 9 Earth Immortal. After Su Zimo left, Lu Yu asked, "Are you going to throw that lad into the 10 extreme hell, County Governor?" "Yes." Perfected Immortal Jingyu nodded slightly and smiled. "Since that lad said that he's lucky, let's see how much fortune favors him in the 10 extreme hell. By the looks of his weak body, he'll probably die inside before long." Lu Yu laughed as well. A moment later, he hesitated for a moment before asking softly, "I heard that there was a huge commotion at the hunting meet this time round and many grade 8 and 9 black immortals were gathered from the major cities. I'm sure Prince Yuanzhua isn't doing this just for fun, right? What are you trying to say?" Perfected Immortal Jingyu asked expressionlessly. Lu Yu said in a low voice, "There's something strange about the suddenness of the hunting meet this time round. Is there any secret? County Governor, I wonder if you can tell me anything. It's best if you don't ask about the affairs of Prince Yuanzhua." Perfected Immortal Jingyu interrupted Lu Yu coldly. Lu Yu lowered his head and smiled embarrassedly, not daring to refute. After a brief pause, Perfected Immortal Jingyu's expression softened. "You don't have to think too much about it. As usual, the city lords will be invited to watch this spectacular hunt. If you're interested, you can come along." Chapter 1927. Absolute Thunder City. Chapter 1927. Absolute Thunder City. Su Zimo had already stayed in Glass City for more than a month. Although he was not imprisoned, there were more than 10 Earth Immortal guards guarding him and he could not move around casually. It was equivalent to being locked up here. For the past few days, the entire Green Cloud County was not peaceful. Listening to the discussions of the Earth Immortals, the Green Cloud County Governor, Perfected Immortal Jingyu, captured traces of the ice butterfly and searched for it the entire way. He fought against it and the latter escaped with serious injuries. Eventually, this ice butterfly attracted the arrival of Perfected Immortals from a few factions. The fact that it stood off against Perfected Immortal Jingyu caused a stir in the entire Green Cloud County. Many Earth Immortals far away in Glass City could not know the details of such a fight in detail. They merely heard that Perfected Immortal Jingyu did not manage to capture the ice butterfly in the end. Although Su Zimo had only met the ice butterfly once, he did not wish for it to fall into the hands of Perfected Immortal Jingyu and the others. 4 ancient living beings such as the Scarlet Blood Spider and Ice Butterfly, once they were discovered, they would either be tamed or refined. There was almost no good outcome. When he heard the news, Su Zimo realized that perfected Immortal Jingyu should return soon and he would leave Glass City as well. Indeed. A day later, perfected Immortal Jingyu and the City Lord of Glass City appeared at the same time and took Su Zimo away. They used the teleportation formation in the city to leave this place. The teleportation formation in Glass City was clearly much better than the one in Dragon Abyss City. The formation patterns were more complicated and mysterious, and the teleportation distance was greatly increased. During the teleportation process, Su Zimo could barely open his eyes and lost his 5 senses. After a long time, Su Zimo regained his senses and arrived at another unfamiliar teleportation formation. Where am I? Su Zimo asked instinctively. This is the center of Green Cloud County, Absolute Thunder City. An Earth Immortal guard said in a deep voice. Everyone left the teleportation hall and arrived in the ancient city. Su Zimo looked around. The ancient city looked even more majestic and sturdy than Glass City. The city walls were pitch black and tall. The architectural style of the city leaned towards darkness. It was very different from Glass City and gave off an inexplicable sense of pressure. There's something strange about this city. Su Zimo muttered to himself internally. The most striking thing in the city was the center of the ancient city. A thick and gigantic stone pillar soared into the skies with chains as thick as an arm coiled around it. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes slightly. Although he was far away, he could still see that the surface of the stone pillar was etched with many dense runes that emitted a strange power. That stone pillar is one with the ancient city. It truly has an extraordinary aura. Su Zimo pretended to praise casually. Phew! When Lu Yu heard that, he could not help but stifle a chuckle. Black Immortal, you sure are sharp to be able to tell that this stone pillar is extraordinary. I don't mind telling you that this is the Absolute Thunder Divine Pillar. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, the Immortal King of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom personally forged it with an extraterritorial divine stone. There are many runes and forbidden techniques etched on it, and it's the foundation of Absolute Thunder City. With this Absolute Thunder Divine Pillar, there won't be any power of thunder in this ancient city. Even lightning tribulations and heavenly tribulations won't descend on this city. Why? Su Zimo frowned slightly and asked, why can't thunder descend here? Humph. Lu Yu seemed to have thought of something and harumphed coldly. Just as he was about to explain, perfected Immortal Jingyu, the Green Cloud County Governor, glanced at Su Zimo and said indifferently, that's enough, it's useless even if you know that. For some reason, Su Zimo felt that be it the Green Cloud County Governor or Lu Yu, the way they looked at him was special. Apart from the disdain towards the lower worlds, there was also a hint of mockery and ridicule. Greetings, County Governor. Right then, a group of people arrived not far away. Their leader had a powerful aura and was burly like an iron pagoda. He arrived before perfected Immortal Jingyu and bowed. There's no need for formalities. Perfected Immortal Jingyu nodded slightly. The person exchanged glances with Lu Yu and nodded as a form of greeting. Su Zimo watched coldly from the sidelines. This should be the City Lord of Absolute Thunder City. How's the preparation for the hunting meet going? Perfected Immortal Jingyu asked. The City Lord of Absolute Thunder City said in a deep voice, everything is ready and we're just waiting for Prince Yuanzhua and you to host it. Many city lords are here for the hunt as well. Hunting meet. Prince Yuanzhua. The information revealed by their conversation attracted Su Zimo's attention. Up till now, he did not know why the Green Cloud County Governor brought him to Absolute Thunder City. Could the Green Cloud County Governor be referring to the hunting meet when he said that he would be given a chance? Who was Prince Yuanzhua? From the tone of the City Lord of Absolute Thunder City, the status of Prince Yuanzhua seemed to be above the Green Cloud County Governor. Could this Prince Yuanzhua be a legendary immortal king? Perfected Immortal Jingyu said, Prince Yuanzhua is in seclusion cultivation. We don't know if he will come this time round. Su Zimo pondered for a moment before asking, may I ask what I'm here for, County Governor? The City Lord of Absolute Thunder City looked at Su Zimo and sized him up before looking at Lu Yu questioningly. To take part in the hunting meet. Lu Yu smirked and said with a fake smile. A mocking look flashed through the City Lord of Absolute Thunder City's eyes as he smiled as well. Perfected Immortal Jingyu looked at Su Zimo with a calm expression. This hunting meat is the chance I'm about to give you. At this moment, the top black immortal experts from all over the great Gene Immortal Kingdom are already gathered here. There are close to 100,000 of them, and you're one of them. 10 days later, you will enter a dungeon beneath Absolute Thunder City. Although it's a dungeon, it has its own dimension within. It's vast with green mountains, clear waters, flora and all sorts of living beings. This dungeon is called the 10 Extreme Hell. Although Su Zimo was expressionless, he was secretly alarmed. Although the Green Cloud County governor made it sound easy, that was a dungeon after all. A dungeon known as the 10 Extreme Hell. That name carried a ferocious aura. The Green Cloud County governor continued, all of you and other living beings in the 10 Extreme Hell can be prey or hunters. There's only one thing you have to do, and that's to survive. Only true hunters can survive to the end. Indeed. Back when the Green Cloud County governor saved Su Zimo and said that he wanted to give the latter a chance, Su Zimo already felt that things were not that simple. From the looks of it, the 10 Extreme Hell was definitely not a friendly place and was probably filled with endless danger. Su Zimo asked expressionlessly, how long do I have to stay inside and how can I leave the 10 Extreme Hell? There's no time limit and only 100 people can leave alive. The Green Cloud County governor said indifferently. Su Zimo was shocked. Of the nearly 100,000 black immortals, only 100 could survive. Chapter 1928. Arrival of the Prince. Chapter 1928. Arrival of the Prince. Take him down. Perfected Immortal Jing Yu waved his hand. Some Earth Immortal guards advanced and brought Su Zimo away from the place. County Governor, I think that lad is just an extremely ordinary black immortal. Why do you think so highly of him and even explain things to him personally? Looking at Su Zimo's back view, Lu Yu could not help but ask. Perfected Immortal Jing Yu shook his head gently. It's nothing much. I just feel that this lad is special. Of course, I might have misjudged him. The City Lord of Absolute Thunder City said, among the many lowlifes who came this time round, there are a few black immortals with some methods and talent. There's even a woman who ascended after crossing the 4 of 9 heavenly tribulation. In less than 5,000 years, she has already cultivated to the level 9 black essence realm. There's another person with a strong physique that's different from ordinary people. He has exuberant vitality and is invincible in melee combat. There's also a lowlife who practices the sword. His sword technique is passable and his comprehension of the sword is not bad. At that point, the City Lord of Absolute Thunder City paused for a moment before continuing. Compared to these lowlifes, that person earlier on was truly nothing. No matter what, the scale of this hunting game is massive and there are many people. It will definitely be more exciting and interesting than before. Perfected Immortal Jing Yu chuckled. 10 days later. Absolute Thunder City. Nearly 100,000 black immortals of the lower worlds were gathered in the City Lord's residence. At a glance, it was a dense black mass. The City Lord's residence of Absolute Thunder City was even more majestic than Dragon Abyss City. The 100,000 black immortals were accommodated with ease in a spacious square. Su Zimo observed secretly in the crowd as well. There were close to 100,000 black immortals and most of them were grade 8 or 9 black immortals. Only a few were grade 7 black immortals. It was clear how large the scale of this hunting meet was. At the front of the square, there were hundreds of stone steps that extended up to an open-air hall before stopping. At the end of the stone steps was the main seat of the hall. Both sides of the hall were already filled with people. All of them had relaxed expressions as they ate the immortal fruits in front of them and drank wine, consuming merrily. Do you see that? Those who can sit in that hall are all city lords of the major cities. There are also some sect masters of immortal sections. The one with brown hair and a ruddy complexion is the sect master of Heavenly Mountain Immortal Sect. It's said that he's also a perfected immortal expert. A few cultivators in the crowd discussed softly. Although they were paragons and monster incarnates in the lower worlds, in the upper world, they had fought for thousands or even tens of thousands of years. Most of them had already lost their sharpness and edges. Everyone knew very well that even if they had already cultivated to grade 8 or 9 black immortals, they were no different from ants in the eyes of these powerful exalted immortals. Hee, all the city lords and important figures of Green Cloud County are present. This is my chance to make a name for myself. In the crowd, a burly man with a strong physique and a ferocious expression grinned with a burning gaze. Everyone present knew that given their cultivation, identity and status, they would not have the chance to come into contact with the exalted immortals in the hall at the front usually. This hunting meet was an opportunity for everyone to change their fates. Su Zimo's expression was calm as water as he surveyed his surroundings. He could vaguely sense that this hunting meet was definitely not simple. Everyone wanted to be the 100 survivors. However, in reality, most of them were only one of the remaining 90,000 odd. In the crowd, Su Zimo discovered a few cultivators that were not to be trifled with. The few of them exuded a dangerous aura. Right then, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he turned around and looked at a woman beside him. The woman was dressed in purple and her long hair was tied simply behind her head. She had a voluptuous figure and fair skin. At first glance, her side profile did not seem outstanding. However, this woman was extremely nice to look at. With just a few more glances, one would feel that she had an extraordinary aura and an indescribable beauty. Su Zimo did not merely take a few more glances. Instead, he glared at the purple-robed woman for a long time. Under normal circumstances, at their cultivation realm, one would definitely sense being stared at like this. However, the purple-robed woman did not turn back the entire time. Her expression was calm and her breathing did not fluctuate at all, as though she did not notice anything. Interesting. Su Zimo retracted his gaze. He sensed a familiar aura from the purple-robed woman that was similar to hidden death sect in Tianhuang Mainland. Even he had almost ignored the existence of the purple-robed woman. This was an extremely dangerous assassin. Right then, a figure rode on rainbow auspicious clouds and descended slowly above the city lord's residence, looking down at everyone. Greetings, County Governor. The city lords in the hall, including some sect masters, stood up one after another and cupped their fists with respectful expressions. The entire world belonged to the king. Su Shi had once told Su Zimo that in the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom, all the major sects, factions and families had to obey the rules of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. The rule of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom over this land was even stronger than that of the Great Zhou Empire of Tianhuang Mainland over the North region. Everyone, there's no need to stand on courtesy. Perfected Immortal Jingyu said, I've just received news that Prince Yuanzhua will be coming to Absolute Thunder City personally to watch the hunting meet. The 100 people who survive this hunting meet will also obtain the chance to serve Prince Yuanzhua. Whoosh. Instantly, a commotion broke out in the crowd. Country Lord Yuanzhua is coming as well. This is a rare opportunity. If I can stand out at this hunting meet and obtain the favor of Prince Yuanzhua, who will dare to look down on me in the future? Who will dare to call me a lowlife? This was a chance for them to ascend through the ranks in a single leap. In the square, many black immortals were excited and discussions broke out. Unlike the clamor in the square, the city lords and sect masters of various factions in the hall were nonchalant and merely smiled indifferently with mocking expressions. These low-life ants are dreaming of a comeback because of the hunting meet? Foo-foo. That's where our fun lies. The city lords and sect masters chuckled. Because they were too far away and there were close to 100,000 black immortals in the square, almost no one could hear what the city lords were saying. Only Su Zimo frowned slightly with a dark look in his eyes. He possessed the Green Lotus bloodline and his hearing and vision were shockingly strong. He had heard everything clearly. This hunting meet was definitely not that simple. Right then, immortal music sounded from the distant horizon. Countless instruments played at the same time, interweaving into a decadent sound. Instantly, the crowd went silent. Everyone subconsciously looked up. In the skies, 3,000 beauties walked in a graceful manner. All of them wore palace robes and were incomparably beautiful, resembling fairies from the 9 heavens. Some of the women held flower baskets and raised their slender hands. Pink petals scattered and fell gently like a rain of flowers, pleasing to the eyes. Some of the women carried zither and raised their jade-like fingers, creating a pleasant sound. Some of the women held jade flutes and exhaled in a lovely manner as the sound of the flute lingered. Among the 3,000 women, a carriage advanced slowly. A young and handsome man leaned against the carriage. His eyes were like gems in the deep sea that shone with a strange glint. The corners of his lips curled up slightly and his smile was slightly evil, emitting a charming aura. Chapter 1929, Fate. Chapter 1929. Fate. Such a grand entrance. The many black immortals in the square were shocked and dumbfounded. Those veiled women were as beautiful as fairies. Any one of them could be considered as a peerless beauty, let alone 3,000 of them. What was even more frightening was that all 3,000 beauties were Earth Immortal experts. That alone was something that the many black immortals in the square could not match. Everyone realized that the young man who was surrounded by countless flowers must be Prince Xueqi of Green Cloud County. Indeed. The young man stood up slowly and the 3,000 fairies knelt down with obedient expressions. Perfected Immortal Jingyu, the city lords and sect masters stood up one after another and bowed, saying in unison, "Greetings, Prince Xueqi." That's how a man should be. In the crowd, the burly man named Li Tian said softly with a burning gaze and clenched fists. Su Zimo frowned slightly and noticed something strange. From the looks of it, the status and power of Prince Xueqi was clearly above the Green Cloud County governor. However, the cultivation realm of this Prince Xueqi was not high and was only at the Earth Essence realm. Strange. Prince Xueqi is only an Earth Immortal, but he can make many Heaven Immortals and even perfected Immortals like the Green Cloud County governor bow down. A black Immortal muttered. Humph. Another person sneered. What do you know? Even if a prince or princess doesn't have a high cultivation realm, they are royalty of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom and are backed by the Great Gene Immortal King. The governor of a county is at most a manager. How can he compare to the princes and princesses with the bloodline of the royal family? Su Zimo recalled what the city lord of Dragon Abyss City, Su Shi, said to him. The execution guards were divided into two types, the Earth and the Heaven guards. The Heaven execution guards could only be mobilized by the royal family. Not even the county governors were qualified to do so. The scene before him confirmed Su Shi's words. Even so, Su Zimo was still puzzled. Even though the prince had a noble status because of his royal bloodline, the cultivation of Prince Yuan's was still seemed a little low. With the bloodline of the royal family, the various cultivation resources were definitely endless and there were many treasures and cultivation techniques. The people they interacted with were also experts. Although Prince Xueqi was young, he was more than 40,000 years old. Under such circumstances, his cultivation to the Earth Essence realm did not seem fast. Of course, that was not impossible to explain. It was either that the talent of Prince Xueqi was ordinary or he had taken the wrong path and was obsessed with beauty instead of cultivation. Just as Su Zimo was pondering, Prince Xueqi had already arrived in the hall. The final victors of this hunting meet will have a chance to follow me. As long as you're absolutely loyal, I won't mistreat you. Prince Xueqi looked down at the 100,000 black immortals in the square and said slowly. The initially silent crowd became noisy once more. Previously, Perfected Immortal Jingyu had already said it once. Now that Prince Xueqi declared it personally, no one doubted it anymore. As a descendant of the royal family, there was no way Prince Xueqi would renege on his words in front of everyone. I have to seize this opportunity. To think that although he's a noble of the royal family, he has no prejudice towards us who ascended from the lower worlds and even gave us such a chance. That's right. That alone is worth risking my life to follow him. The many black immortals present had experienced countless hardships, coldness and bullying in the upper world over the years. Now that Prince Xueqi had appeared, everyone was moved. Furthermore, who wouldn't be tempted by an opportunity to change their fates and escape their lowly statuses? Of course, there were also a few black immortals who had calm expressions the entire time, as though they were unmoved. One of them was Su Zimo. The other was the purple-robed woman beside him. Su Zimo was not surprised that the purple-robed woman was so calm. She cultivated the Tao of assassination. If not for her mental state, she would have died countless times. The reason why Su Zimo remained calm was because he felt that something was amiss. What sort of status did Prince Xueqi have? Although he was an Earth Immortal, he could mobilize the Heaven Execution Guards at will and even the Green Cloud County governor had to obey him. Why would such a powerful person choose 100 black immortals to serve him? That did not make sense. Another strange thing was that the black immortals who participated in the hunting meet were all people who had ascended from the lower worlds. Could it be, as others had said, that this was a fair chance for everyone from the lower worlds to change their fates? After saying that, Prince Yuanzhua had already arrived at the main seat and sat down. Perfected Immortal Jingyu walked forward and declared, "Once the hunting meet begins, a hunting ranking will appear in the 10 Extreme Hell. It will only display the top 100, and the ranking will be based on the number of people you hunt. Those who survive and are ranked on the hunting ranking will be the final victors and can leave the 10 Extreme Hells." When they heard that, most of the cultivators in the square did not seem surprised, as though they were already familiar with the rules of the hunting meet. However, Su Zimo was secretly alarmed and felt a chill run down his spine. Perfected Immortal Jingyu did not mention the word kill in his words earlier on. However, if one thought about it carefully, they could sense the bloodthirst behind it. It was cruel and sinister. By hunting, Perfected Immortal Jingyu meant killing. In other words, the so-called hunting ranking was actually a killing ranking. What was even more frightening were the rules of the hunting meet. The hunting ranking only displayed the top 100. In other words, one would have to kill endlessly if they wanted to make it onto the ranking. If one were to stop, there was a chance that they would be surpassed and squeezed out of the hunting ranking. Once one entered the 10 Extreme Hell, they would have no choice. Even if they wanted to stay out of things and not fight, someone would find and kill them. One could imagine that at the end of the hunting meet, less than 10% of the 100,000 black immortals would survive. This was not a hunting meet, but a killing feast organized by these exalted immortals, city lords, important figures and titans. Su Zimo looked up at the exalted immortals in the hall. When Perfected Immortal Jingyu said that, his tone was cold and he did not take the lives of the 100,000 black immortals seriously at all. The other city lords and sect masters chatted softly with relaxed expressions. The hunting meet had been held countless times and they were long used to this scene. Su Zimo lowered his head slightly with a cold gaze. The more he understood about the upper world, the more he could sense that feeling of helplessness. Both Dai Yu and the human emperor had told him similar things. The upper world was much more dangerous and cruel than the lower worlds. The danger and cruelty did not only come from the fights between immortal kingdoms, sects, races and living beings. More than that, it came from the contempt and disdain of the living beings of the upper world towards the living beings of the lower worlds. The living beings of the upper world sealed most of the cultivation resources, and even ordinary cultivation elixirs like the essence condensation pill could not be refined casually. In such an environment, even if the living beings of the lower worlds had unparalleled endowments and extraordinary talent, it was almost impossible for them to surpass these exalted immortals and replace them. This was the cruelty of the upper world and the fate of the living beings of the lower worlds. Chapter 1930, Massacre. Chapter 1930. Massacre. Suddenly, Perfected Immortal Jingyu waved his hand and a dense jade-green light flew out from his wide sleeves, scattering onto the square below and landing in front of the 100,000 black immortals with extreme precision. That method displayed the powerful control of Perfected Immortal Jingyu. The jade-green spots of light appeared. Su Zimo focused his gaze. The spot of light before him was a jade badge that was around 6 inches long and 2 fingers wide. The surface of the badge shone with a mysterious aura. This is the legendary hunting badge. We have to use our spirit consciousnesses to write our names on one side of the badge as a spirit consciousness imprint. In the crowd, some black immortals seemed to know a lot about the hunting meet. Recognizing the origin of the badge, they reached out and grabbed it, leaving their spirit consciousness imprints on it. "Is there no other way?" someone asked softly. "Fufu, sure, don't write your name then." Another cultivator sneered, "If you don't leave a spirit consciousness imprint on the hunting badge, the moment you enter the 10 Extreme Hell, the hunting ranking will descend with the power of punishment and kill you mercilessly. I heard that the hunting ranking of the 10 Extreme Hell is a terrifying sentient dermic treasure. Think about whether you can withstand the punishment of a sentient dermic treasure." The cultivator who asked the first question was shocked and his face turned slightly pale. He hurriedly channeled his spirit consciousness and left his name on the hunting badge. Su Zimo frowned slightly. For some reason, the act of leaving a spirit consciousness imprint caused him to instinctively feel resistant. Furthermore, he had no intention of fighting for a spot on the hunting ranking. But now, the situation was pressing and he had no choice under the gazes of so many exalted immortal experts. Hesitating slightly, Su Zimo still left the words, Su Zimo on the side of the hunting badge with his spirit consciousness. The other side of the hunting badge was blank and empty. Before long, the nearly 100,000 black immortals of the lower worlds in the square had already left their spirit consciousness imprints on the hunting badges. When he saw that, perfected immortal Jing Yu nodded slightly in satisfaction and smiled. The hunting meet has officially begun. Good luck, everyone. The moment he said that, perfected immortal Jing Yu waved his hand gently. Boom, boom, boom. A violent quake broke out in the square. Immediately after, the ground beneath the feet of the many black immortals collapsed. Caught off guard, everyone missed their footing. A powerful suction force burst forth from below and everyone could not help but fall rapidly amidst panicked screams. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. However, he calmed down quickly and lowered his head to take a look. The ground beneath his feet vanished and in its place was a pitch-black abyss that seemed to lead to the depths of hell. From the corner of his eye, Su Zimo caught sight of a purple figure. It was the female assassin. Earlier on, Su Zimo noticed that the female assassin had left her name on the hunting badge. Tang Zi. He did not know if that was her alias or real name. Even after encountering such a change, Tang Zi's face was expressionless and indifferent the entire time. Everyone fell continuously in the endless darkness. The 10 Extreme Hell was built deep underground in Absolute Thunder City. A long time later, a bright light appeared below, shimmering like a gigantic water barrier. Everyone landed on the water barrier and passed through it rapidly. Their vision cleared up as though they had arrived at another world. The powerful suction force on their bodies suddenly vanished as well. Everyone hurriedly controlled their bodies and descended on the ground. There were mountains and forests in the surroundings. Not far away, the sound of running water could be heard and cranes could be seen flying in the distant horizon. Everyone realized that they had already arrived in the 10 Extreme Hell. Although the surroundings seemed peaceful, everyone knew that once they entered this place, they would be surrounded by killing intent and might die at any moment. 100,000 black immortals were gathered in the square of the city lord's residence, and they were extremely close to one another. Now that everyone had fallen at the same time and arrived in the 10 Extreme Hell, although they were scattered, they were not far away. The hunting meet had officially begun. In other words, everyone could attack and kill wantonly here. Suddenly, the surroundings fell into a strange silence. It was like the calm before a storm. It was suffocating. The air was filled with a murderous intent. Many black immortals held their breaths and were tense. Nobody dared to act rashly. Given the circumstances, a single move could affect the entire situation and any meaningless action could lead to a massive battle. Some of the black immortals even had beads of sweat flowing down their faces. Right then, a pitch-black scroll suddenly descended from the water barrier in the skies, emitting a shuddering aura and a rumbling might. Everyone looked up with horrified expressions. "What is that?" someone asked softly. Right in front of everyone, the black scroll opened slowly, revealing a pitch-black canvas. "This should be the hunting ranking," another person said. The appearance of the hunting ranking seemed to ease the tension in the surroundings. Although almost everyone's attention was drawn to the hunting ranking, Su Zimo merely raised his head and glanced before retracting his gaze. While everyone was distracted, he passed by many cultivators in a flash and left the battlefield rapidly. Like a gust of wind, Su Zimo left before many people could react. If he wanted to kill during this process, these people would definitely not be spared and would not even know how they died. Almost at the same time as Su Zimo moved, Tang Zi, who was not far away, made the same choice. Tang Zi retracted her aura rapidly, and her movement technique was agile like a ghost. After a few twists and turns, she left the battlefield as well. The moment Su Zimo looked at Tang Zi, the latter turned around as well. Their gazes met in midair. With an indifferent expression, Tang Zi turned around quickly and disappeared into the forest. "Kill!" Right then, a shout sounded from the crowd not far away. Suddenly, the burly man named Li Tian raised a thick bronze rod and struck the temple of a black immortal. Poof! the Black Immortal still had his head raised looking at the hunting ranking. Before he could react, his head was smashed into pieces and his blood splattered. A Grade 9 Black Immortal died on the spot. This attack ignited the entire battlefield and a massacre broke out. Instantly, many Black Immortals attacked one after another. Dermic treasures, immortal arts, secret skills and divine powers burst forth and the battlefield was in chaos as the stench of blood filled the air. In the blink of an eye, at least 1,000 Black Immortals were dead. After the battle broke out, it became extremely difficult for anyone to escape. Outside the battlefield, Su Zimo watched everything with a conflicted expression. Those people were all people who had ascended from the lower worlds. However, under the will of many exalted immortals, they arrived here and could not help but kill one another. If they wanted to leave alive, they could only kill continuously. Chapter 1931. Mirage Mirror. Chapter 1931. Mirage Mirror. After the massacre began, blood-red names began to appear on the pitch-black hunting ranking in the skies. The black canvas and scarlet words were extremely striking. Behind those names, strings of numbers jumped and refreshed continuously. Right now, the first was Li Tian. The number behind him was 11. In just dozens of breaths, there were already 11 cultivators who died in Li Tian's hands. That figure was still increasing rapidly. Many cultivators fought one another and fresh blood filled the air with a torrential blood stench. Heads, limbs and severed limbs were tossed into the air. Everyone's eyes were bloodshot. In fact, dozens of cultivators were targeting Su Zimo who was outside the battlefield. After all, in the eyes of everyone, Su Zimo looked way too ordinary. Dressed in green robes, he had refined features and even looked weak. Most cultivators would choose the weakest to kill. That was the lowest risk, the least energy consumption and the most advantageous for themselves. Some people fought their way out of the battlefield only to discover that the green-robed cultivator had already vanished. The other few cultivators burrowed into the forest and chased after Su Zimo. With a calm expression, Su Zimo traveled through the forest and channeled divine powers and secret skills such as heavenly feet and boundless golden light at an extremely fast speed. Before long, he left the few cultivators behind him in the dust. Even without using his extreme speed divine power, there was no one in the same cultivation realm who could match his speed. After walking for a while more, Su Zimo suddenly stopped and frowned. Although he had clearly shaken off the tail behind him completely, for some reason, he felt like he was being spied on the entire way. Could it be that female assassin? Releasing his spirit consciousness, Su Zimo scanned his surroundings carefully. He did not even let go of the withered branches, gravel, leaves of the ancient trees and even the bugs that traveled through the mud. A true assassin would cultivate concealment techniques, divine powers and secret skills similar to the 36 and 72 transformations. Su Zimo's spirit consciousness was already at level 2 Earth Essence realm. He was confident that even if someone released the lesser invisibility technique nearby, he would be able to sense something unusual and locate them. However, he searched for a long time but could not find anything unusual. However, the feeling of being spied on had not disappeared. He was being watched the entire time and his every move was under the other party's control. It was a terrible feeling. Strange. Su Zimo murmured softly and closed his eyes. This time round, he did not use his spirit consciousness. Instead, he relied on his unfathomable spirit perception to search for the source of the spying feeling. A moment later, Su Zimo opened his eyes and looked up with a fleeting divine light. Unknowingly, a gigantic black and white eyeball had appeared in the firmaments. It protruded slightly and looked down at the entire 10 absolute hell in a terrifying manner. The source of that spying feeling came from that gigantic eyeball. Su Zimo had a guess and his expression turned cold. City Lord's residence. After the many Black Immortals entered the 10 absolute hell, the City Lords and various exalted immortals exchanged glances with excited expressions. Haha, it's about to begin. I wonder who will win this time round. I think highly of Li Tian, who wants to make a bet with me for a connate heaven-grade dermic treasure. In the hall, the City Lords and exalted immortals ate spirit fruits and drank immortal wine as they discussed fervently. In my opinion, that sword cultivator named Jianyu is not bad. He passed the 3 of 9 heavenly tribulation before ascending and is decisive to kill. He even fought on the battlefield at the borders for thousands of years and has extraordinary methods. If that's the case, Tang Zi is even more powerful. That chick passed the 4 of 9 heavenly tribulation. The city lord of Glass City, Lu Yu, sneered evilly. County governor, let's not wait anymore. Hurry and conjure the Mirage mirror so that we can see the situation inside. That's right, let's not miss out on any exciting kills. The city lord of Absolute Thunder City urged impatiently as well. All right. Perfected Immortal Jingyu smiled gently and conjured hand seals unhurriedly. Strands of powerful essence chi circled around his fingertips and shone brightly. Condense! He pointed into midair and hollered. Suddenly, ripples appeared in the void ahead, as though a gigantic circular water mirror was formed. A moment later, the ripples on the water mirror dissipated and calmed down. Through the water mirror, everything in the 10 absolute hell could be seen clearly. At that moment, the 100,000 black immortals had just arrived and were looking up at the hunting ranking in midair. A moment later, the battle broke out. Through the gigantic Mirage mirror, one could clearly see the situation in the 10 absolute hell as though they were personally involved. Haha, I knew it. Li Tian is ruthless and will definitely get number 1. That's not for sure. Jianyu followed closely behind and did not give in either. He merely killed a few people less than Li Tian. The hunting game has just begun. It's still early. Everyone in the hall toasted with relaxed expressions as they enjoyed the massacre. Watching the ants of the lower worlds fight was one of the few pleasures for these exalted immortals. Under normal circumstances, there would be a hunting meet in Absolute Thunder City every 10,000 years. However, for some reason, only a few thousand years had passed since the previous hunting meet when Prince Yuanzhua ordered it to be held once more. Furthermore, it was even larger this time round and there were close to 100,000 black immortals gathered. This also meant that the hunt would be even more bloody, cruel and exciting. Surrounded by many fairies, Prince Yuanzhua looked at the Mirage mirror casually and asked in a relaxed manner, Jingyu, who do you fancy? Perfected Immortal Jingyu bowed slightly and smiled. Li Tian, Jian Yu and Tang Zi that the city lords mentioned are not bad. If they're careful, they should be able to make it to the end. He seemed to have thought of something and paused for a moment, wanting to speak but stopped. What did you want to say? The gaze of Prince Yuanzhua was sharp as he caught the hesitation in Perfected Immortal Jingyu's eyes and asked. Perfected Immortal Jingyu said, a living being was dug out from the essence spirit mine of Glass City this time round. I went to suppress it personally. Prince Yuanzhua acknowledged and nodded. I know about that. I heard it was only settled after Heaven and Earth Academy interfered. Yes. Perfected Immortal Jingyu said, 2 ancient living beings were dug out from the essence spirit mine outside Glass City. Although they had just awakened and their strength had yet to recover to their peaks, their combat strength was already terrifying and they could even kill most Heaven Immortal experts. Under normal circumstances, when such ancient living beings awaken, they will definitely start a massacre and devour flesh to recover their essence chi. Even Earth Immortals and Heaven Immortals won't be able to escape death. There's no way the Black Immortals mining beneath the mine can survive. However, Perfected Immortal Jingyu paused for a moment and turned to look at the Mirage mirror. However, a grade 9 Black Immortal survived beneath that mine. Chapter 1932. Attracting Attention. Chapter 1932. Attracting Attention. Oh! Prince Yuanzhua raised his brow slightly in surprise. No matter the reason, even if it was purely luck, black immortals who could survive a spirit mine blood calamity were indeed rare. In the cultivation world, although talent and endowment were important, fate, opportunities and luck were also indispensable. There was no paragon or monster incarnate who could cultivate to the peak and look down on everyone with just their talent and endowment without any opportunities. Perfected Immortal Jingyu said, according to what that lad said, he was lucky to survive. The reason why I brought him to Absolute Thunder City to take part in this hunting game was because I wanted to see if his luck would allow him to survive till the end. After pausing for a moment he said in a low voice, if that lad's luck is truly good and he's different from ordinary people, he might be able to help you and contribute. Who are you talking about? Prince Yuanzhua asked. That green-robed cultivator. Perfected Immortal Jing Yu pointed to a figure in the Mirage mirror. At that moment, the bloody battle in the 10 Absolute Hell had already broken out and it was extremely tragic on the battlefield. However, the green-robed cultivator had already left the battlefield and was not involved. He was extremely striking on the Mirage mirror. Foo-foo. Prince Yuanzhua chuckled. That person is quite smart. To think that he would leave the battlefield in advance and not get involved. Perfected Immortal Jing Yu pointed to another purple figure that was about to enter the forest. That's Tang Zi, who ascended after crossing the 4 of 9 heavenly tribulation. A moment later, through the Mirage mirror, it could be seen that the green-robed cultivator was targeted. As though he was wary and did not dare to fight, the green-robed cultivator turned and entered the forest as well, leaving the spot. Prince Yuanzhua shook his head. If he merely has luck and no other trump cards, it would be difficult to stand out in this hunting game. The rule of the hunting meet was that only the top 100 could leave the 10 Absolute Hell alive. In other words, even if the green-robed cultivator was lucky enough to survive till the end, he won't be able to make it into the hunting ranking without killing enough people. Indeed. Yes, that lad's movement technique is not bad. Perfected Immortal Jing Yu glared at the Mirage mirror and said. At the side, Lu Yu smiled. County Governor, this is the 10 Absolute Hell. There are many dangers that these people can't imagine, and every single step is alarming. No matter how good your movement technique is, it's useless. Before long, Prince Yuanzhua suddenly said, that person is about to die. Everyone shifted their gazes towards the green-robed figure that was traveling through a forest in the 10 Absolute Hell. The City Lord of Absolute Thunder City said, not far ahead of that lad is the territory of the desolate swamp gigantic crocodile. As long as he enters that place, he'll definitely awaken that gigantic crocodile. This desolate swamp gigantic crocodile is a grade 3 earth demon. This lad is bound to die, Lu Yu chuckled. There were countless dangerous places like this in the 10 Absolute Hell. Those demon beasts of the upper world were captured by many exalted immortal experts present, and were deliberately imprisoned in the 10 Absolute Hell. The 100,000 black immortals who entered the 10 Absolute Hell would not only have to face the killing power of other black immortals, but also sudden dangers as such. This was also one of the joys of many exalted immortals. They loved to see the black immortals inside tremble in fear and panic in the face of the powerful demon beasts that suddenly appeared. The sight of those black immortals struggling helplessly only to be hunted by demon beasts eventually gave them a different sort of pleasure. At that moment, the battle was getting more intense and bloody. Black immortals would die at every moment. The names on the hunting ranking changed continuously, and the numbers at the back jumped continuously. However, some exalted immortals in the city lord's residence noticed the green-robed cultivator. To think that someone would encounter an earth demon so quickly, haha. This person looks weak and scholarly. I reckon that he'll faint on the spot when the desolate swamp gigantic crocodile appears. Many exalted immortals burst into laughter and waited for the green-robed cultivator to step into the death swamp on the Mirage mirror. Time passed bit by bit. The smiles on the faces of many exalted immortals gradually vanished. Under normal circumstances, according to the trajectory of the green-robed cultivator, he should be able to reach the death swamp before long. However, for some reason, when he was about to reach the edge of the death swamp, the green-robed cultivator stopped in his tracks strangely and did not continue forward. Under the gazes of many exalted immortals, the green-robed cultivator stayed on the spot for a long time and began to change directions. Strange, could that lad have discovered the death swamp? That can't be. Although we call that place the death swamp, the desolate swamp gigantic crocodile went silent and the surface of the swamp looks no different from normal ground. How could that lad have noticed it? It's probably a coincidence. The exalted immortals were displeased that the bloody scene many of them anticipated did not appear. Perfected Immortal Jing Yu smiled gently. Seems like this lad's luck is indeed not bad. At the side, Lu Yu pouted his lips in disapproval. There are dangers as such everywhere in the 10 Absolute Hell. I don't believe that this lad will be so lucky every single time. 2 hours later, the initial bloody battle in the 10 Absolute Hell was gradually coming to an end. Although many cultivators had already left the battlefield in the chaos, the battlefield was still filled with corpses and rivers of blood. It was extremely tragic. At least 20,000 black immortals died in that battle. However, the hunting meet had only just begun. As the flames of war gradually extinguished, the attention of many exalted immortals dispersed and landed on some black immortals that were the focus of attention. Li Tian, Jian Yu and the others were closely watched by everyone. Unlike others, perfected immortal Jing Yu's gaze was fixed on Su Zimo the entire time. Suddenly, Prince Yuanzhua asked, "How many has it been?" "This is already the fourth." Perfected immortal Jing Yu replied. Including the initial death swamp, the green-robed cultivator had already avoided 4 similar dangerous places along the way. The green-robed cultivator did not fight anyone the entire time and merely wandered around the 10 absolute hell. However, each time he was about to step foot into a dangerous place, the person would suddenly stop as though he sensed something beforehand and change directions to dodge. If it was just a coincidence once, for consecutive times was something worth pondering about. Interesting. Prince Yuanzhua murmured softly and his eyes gradually lit up. Most of his attention was focused on Su Zimo. At that moment, the tens of thousands of black immortals had already separated and scattered everywhere in the 10 absolute hell. Through the Mirage mirror, dozens of black immortals entered the death swamp by mistake without realizing anything and alarmed the desolate swamp gigantic crocodile. The death swamp spun continuously with a powerful suction force. Dozens of black immortals fell into it and could not break free at all. Immediately after, a gigantic crocodile that was thousands of feet long appeared in the middle of the vortex. It had a ferocious gaze and saliva drooled from the corner of its mouth with a terrifying aura. In less than 10 breaths, the dozens of black immortals were devoured by the desolate swamp gigantic crocodile. Similar situations were happening repeatedly in the 10 absolute hell. Everyone inside was prey. Chapter 1933. Nobody or Hero. Chapter 1933. Nobody or Hero. 10 Absolute Hell. Su Zimo's gaze was cold and his expression was dark. It had been almost a day since he entered this place. Although he had long left the battlefield and deliberately avoided many cultivators, his path forward was still treacherous and filled with killing intent. If he had not sensed danger beforehand with his spirit perception, he would have fallen into extremely perilous situations as well. He had witnessed with his own eyes how a seemingly flat and ordinary meadow suddenly turned into a swamp where a gigantic crocodile charged out and devoured dozens of cultivators. He had also witnessed a few cultivators hiding on an ancient tree, waiting for an opportunity to strike. To think that they would encounter a nest of black wasps. Thousands of black wasps were alarmed and swept past the few cultivators densely. In the blink of an eye, the few of them died in an extremely tragic manner, riddled with holes by the poison needles of the black wasps. Be it the swamp crocodile or the black wasps, they were all earth demons and were an entire major cultivation realm above the black immortals of the 10 absolute hell. A single black wasp was enough to kill its way through many black immortals. Who could defend against thousands of black wasps? If Su Zimo was careless and fell into the swarm of black wasps, it would be difficult for him to leave alive. Danger lurked everywhere in the 10 absolute hell. What made Su Zimo feel even more uncomfortable was that he was being watched at all times. Although he could not see the situation outside through the gigantic eye in the firmaments, he could sense that some people were staring at him. Suddenly, Su Zimo frowned slightly, as though he sensed something. Once again, he felt as though he was being spied on. It was faint and slightly different from the spying feeling in the firmaments. If not for his sharp spirit perception, it would have been difficult for him to detect the difference. Su Zimo did not think too much about it and continued to release his movement technique, circling around the forest without stopping. An hour later, Su Zimo stopped in his tracks once more. The feeling of being spied on did not disappear. He was targeted. Instinctively, the image of an expressionless woman in purple appeared in Su Zimo's mind. Tangzi. Earlier on, he released heavenly feet, boundless golden light and other divine powers and secret skills. Using the environment, he changed directions continuously and almost no one of the same cultivation realm could catch up to him. However, he could not shake off the tail behind him for an hour. He reckoned that only someone who was extremely good at assassination could hide her aura almost perfectly and follow him like a leech. Su Zimo sneered internally. To think that the female assassin would choose to attack him. Su Zimo continued forward expressionlessly. City Lord's residence, main hall. Prince Yuan's was stared at Su Zimo in the Mirage mirror for an entire day, but he still knew nothing about this person and could not see his strength. That was because right from the beginning, this person had not fought with anyone. There was a hint of impatience in the eyes of Prince Yuanzhua, and his initial interest in Su Zimo gradually faded as well. He won't be of much use if he doesn't possess any powerful methods and can only dodge continuously. Prince Yuanzhua yawned and pouted in disappointment. This person is way too boring. That's right. Lu Yu smiled. Your Highness, after a day of killing, the lowlifes who are truly capable have long stood out from the masses. Why waste your time on some nobody? Your Highness, please take a look. As I expected, Li Tian is indeed the #1 of the hunting ranking. The game isn't over yet. It's still too early for the rankings to be decided, the City Lord of Absolute Thunder City at the side said. Prince Yuanzhua retracted his gaze from Su Zimo. Just as he was about to shift his attention, perfected Immortal Jingyu at the side exclaimed softly, That lad has been targeted. What? Prince Yuanzhua asked. Perfected Immortal Jingyu pointed to the Mirage mirror and said, Your Highness, please take a closer look. There's actually a figure hidden beside that ancient tree. Prince Yuanzhua narrowed his eyes slightly. Indeed. In the void beside the ancient tree, there was a faint distortion and it could vaguely be recognized as a figure. However, one would not be able to notice it unless they focused their attention. It's the lesser invisibility technique. Prince Yuanzhua nodded slightly and said. Perfected Immortal Jingyu smiled. If I'm not wrong, that should be the woman who passed the 4 of 9 heavenly tribulation, Tang Zi. Oh! The eyes of Prince Yuanzhua lit up. That was because he had just discovered something. Tang Zi had already targeted Su Zimo. Perfected Immortal Jingyu smiled gently. We'll know soon whether Su Zimo is a nobody or a hero. Prince Yuanzhua was invigorated and his attention landed on Su Zimo once more. At the side, Lu Yu shook his head. Even as bystanders, it's difficult for us to detect Tang Zi's presence. That lad is most likely going to die before he knows it. Prince Yuanzhua and Perfected Immortal Jingyu glared at Su Zimo for another 2 hours. This time round, even Perfected Immortal Jingyu could not hold on any longer and clenched his fists slightly. Su Zimo had been scurrying around the 10 absolute hell at an extremely fast speed aimlessly. With Tang Zi following behind, there was no chance for her to attack even if she wanted to. Under such high-speed pursuit, her essence spirit, blood chi and stamina were greatly depleted. It was already her limit to be able to maintain the lesser invisibility technique, let alone attack Su Zimo. Nothing about Su Zimo seemed to have changed in the past 2 hours, as though he did not notice anything. However, Tang Zi had expended a lot of energy. There were even a few times when she could barely sustain the lesser invisibility technique and was almost exposed. With a frustrated expression, Prince Yuanzhua gulped down a large cup of spirit tea. What is that person trying to do running around inside? I really want to go in and slap him to death. Perfected Immortal Jingyu took a deep breath and composed himself. Your Highness, please calm down and wait a little longer. Right then, Su Zimo's speed finally slowed down. Before long, he stopped in front of a cave filled with fresh blood and corpses. A grade 9 earth demon, the Flying Tiger Lion, resided in the cave. About 4 hours ago, hundreds of cultivators passed by this place and alarmed this beast. The Flying Tiger Lion came out of seclusion and went on a massacre. Hundreds of cultivators died here and the cave became empty after the beast left. Through the Mirage mirror, Su Zimo could be seen lingering at the entrance of the cave for a while, as though he was probing carefully. Before long, Su Zimo entered the cave and disappeared from the Mirage mirror. Prince Yuanzhua and Perfected Immortal Jingyu were stunned for a moment and exchanged glances. Through the gigantic Mirage eye in the firmaments, the Mirage mirror could reflect everything in the 10 absolute hell. However, in a cave like this, some secluded places or blind spots could not be exposed completely. Since the Mirage eye could not see it, it naturally could not appear on the Mirage mirror. In other words, Su Zimo was temporarily free from the surveillance of the many exalted immortals in the city lord's residence. Prince Yuanzhua was looking forward to the battle between Tang Ziyi and Su Zimo. To think that Su Zimo would enter the cave and they would not be able to see anything. Prince Yuanzhua opened his mouth and almost fainted from the pent-up anger in his chest. Chapter 1934 Fight. Chapter 1934 Fight. Don't worry, Your Highness. Perfected Immortal Jingyu said. There's no second exit in this cave. Once Su Zimo enters this place, it's equivalent to having no way out and he can no longer run around. It's a good thing. Suddenly, the city lord of Absolute Thunder City said. Tang Ziyi followed in as well. Hee, that lad has nowhere to run this time round. There's going to be a good show to watch. Lu Yu chuckled. Displeasure filled Prince Yuan's face as he harumphed coldly. What's the use of having nowhere to run? I want to know how strong that lad is and see the two of them fight. Now that the two of them are in the cave, what good can there be to watch? Prince Yuanzhua asked repeatedly. Lu Yu looked embarrassed and smiled awkwardly, not daring to say anything. At the side, Perfected Immortal Jingyu persuaded softly. Your Highness, please calm down. All we have to do is wait and see. If Tang Ziyi comes out of this cave eventually, it means that Su Zimo is already dead. A dead man is worthless and not worth your attention, Your Highness. If Su Zimo can leave this place alive, it will at least prove that he is not weaker than Tang Ziyi and is worthy of our attention. All right. Prince Yuanzhua nodded and gradually calmed down. 10 Absolute Hell. Tang Ziyi came to the entrance of the Flying Tiger Lion and paused for a moment. Although she was expressionless, she was hesitant internally. Among the 100,000 black immortals that entered the 10 Absolute Hell this time round, the only one she could not see through was the green-robed cultivator earlier on. To her, this person was an indeterminate factor and a threat. It would naturally be best if she could get rid of him if she had the chance. However, she had chased him the entire way and it was already her limit to be able to keep up with this person. She did not have any chance to attack at all. Initially, Tang Ziyi was extremely confident that she would not be discovered given her capabilities. But now, she was hesitant as she looked at the entrance of the cave. What is that person doing in the cave? Could that person have already discovered my tracks and has been toying with me the entire way? The moment that thought crossed Tang Ziyi's mind, she rejected it. Impossible. Tang Ziyi thought to herself, everyone is being watched by the Mirage Eye and my aura is mixed in. How can this person tell? She took a deep breath and no longer let her imagination run wild. Even so, she was still extremely cautious. Her master had once warned her that when one cultivated the Tao of assassination, life and death was fleeting and there could be no mistakes. Tang Ziyi came to the side of the cave and helped a black immortal corpse up. She hid behind the black immortal corpse and controlled it freely. It was as though the corpse had been resurrected. If one were to look at it head-on, they would not be able to see that there was someone hidden behind the corpse. Tang Ziyi channeled her lesser invisibility technique once more and vanished with the corpse, entering the cave silently. The cave was dark and deep without much light. Even with her eyesight, her visibility was extremely limited. After walking for a while, Tang Ziyi stopped in her tracks. Not far ahead, a blurry figure could vaguely be seen. It was the green-robed cultivator. At that moment, the green-robed cultivator's back was facing her as he walked extremely slowly, as though he was taking a leisurely stroll. Suddenly, the green-robed cultivator's figure flashed and he seemed to have vanished from the spot. In such a dark space, it was easy to hallucinate. Ordinary cultivators would definitely blink and observe carefully. However, Tang Ziyi cultivated the Tao of assassination, and her perception of the outside world was no longer based on her 5 senses. More than that, she relied on her instinct to avoid danger. The moment the green-robed cultivator's figure flashed, Tang Ziyi's heart skipped a beat and her hairs stood on end. This is bad, I've been discovered. Without hesitation, Tang Ziyi controlled the corpse in front of her and turned around. She curled up and hid behind the corpse completely. Before she completed her action, the green-robed cultivator had already appeared behind her and suddenly slapped down. Bang! The palm landed on the head of the corpse. Instantly, Tang Zi heard the sound of bones cracking. She controlled the corpse and could clearly sense that the bones of the black immortal corpse were almost shattered by that palm strike. What terrifying power! Tang Zi was secretly speechless. If she had not been prepared and blocked the corpse in front of her, she would not have been able to withstand the power of that palm strike with her body. She could not figure out how she revealed any openings that the green-robed cultivator discovered. She could not understand how this person could suddenly teleport beside her and kill her. Under such circumstances, she no longer had the energy to think about those questions. Retreat! There was only a single thought in Tang Zi's mind. After missing her attack, she had to flee 1,000 miles away without any hesitation. Tang Zi made use of the corpse to defend against the sure kill attack. Without any pause, her initially curled-up body suddenly bounced back and she sped towards the depths of the cave like an arrow. The entire process happened in a flash. When Su Zimo suddenly attacked, Tang Zi fled far away at an astonishing speed. He was not surprised that Tang Zi could avoid this attack. However, he was slightly surprised that Tang Zi did not choose to retreat towards the entrance of the cave. Time was tight and Su Zimo did not have time to think about the reason. He did not know if there was a second exit in the depths of the cave. However, if Tang Zi were to escape from the cave and he chased after her to suppress her, he would definitely be exposed to the gigantic eye in the firmaments. The reason why Su Zimo lured Tang Zi into the cave before making a move was because he wanted to escape from the surveillance outside and did not want to expose too many of his trump cards. If Tang Zi were to leave this place, it would be difficult for him to attack. Worried that something might happen, Su Zimo made a prompt decision and did not chase. Instead, he released the second flash of the true Dragon 9 flashes. Swoosh! Su Zimo vanished from the spot. When he reappeared, he was already above Tang Zi. With a burning gaze, Su Zimo reached out and grabbed Tang Zi's head. However, the moment he attacked, Tang Zi's figure flashed and vanished from the spot as well. In its place was the corpse whose bones were shattered by Su Zimo earlier on. It's the lesser divine power, Nether Swap. Su Zimo was shocked. Tang Zi was prepared. When she controlled the corpse to enter the cave, apart from defending against his first attack, she even made use of the corpse to release a lesser divine power, Nether Swap, to escape from his control once more. Su Zimo finally understood why Tang Zi fled towards the depths of the cave. This was merely an illusion created by Tang Zi intentionally. Her true goal was to leave through the entrance. At that moment, Tang Zi had successfully lured Su Zimo into the depths of the cave. However, with Nether Swap, she exchanged positions with the corpse and was now even closer to the entrance of the cave. The mental warfare between the two of them was even more dangerous than a head-on clash. If the many exalted immortals of the City Lord's residence saw this, they would be shocked at the combat talent and techniques displayed by the two of them. Chapter 1935. Subduing. Chapter 1935. Subduing. Su Zimo saw through Tang Zi's tracks and lured her into the dark cave, making use of the true Dragon 9 flashes to strike first. Tang Zi lost the initiative and nearly died. However, in the blink of an eye, she made use of her shocking reaction speed and psychological warfare to regain the initiative and escape towards the entrance of the cave. Su Zimo glared at Tang Zi's back view and his gaze intensified. In a flash, he vanished from the spot once more. The third flash. After cultivating for more than 1,000 years in the mine outside Glass City, apart from his cultivation advancement, he had also raised the true Dragon 9 flashes to level 3 and could flash 3 times in succession. Ever since Su Zimo cultivated this secret skill, it was extremely rare for anyone of the same cultivation realm to force him to use level 2. Let alone 3 consecutive flashes to deal with a single person. Given the current situation, even if Su Zimo used the innate divine power of the Golden Rock, he could not suppress Tang Zi before she left the cave. If Tang Zi were to leave the cave, even if Su Zimo could chase after her, it would go against his original intentions of hiding from the surveillance of the outsiders. Left with no choice, Su Zimo activated the true Dragon 9 flashes once more and descended before Tang Zi. The moment he attacked, he used the Great Chaos Essence Palm. The seemingly fair and tender palm seemed to have transformed into a gigantic millstone that released an extremely terrifying grinding and distortion power. The entire cave turned suffocating. However, Tang Zi did not stop at all. There was still no emotion on her cold face and her gaze was frighteningly calm. Su Zimo could not help but exclaim internally. Such a strong mental fortitude was indeed extraordinary. Tang Zi was the most terrifying assassin he had encountered up till this point of his cultivation. Suddenly, Tang Zi extended her hands and blocked Su Zimo's great chaos essence palm. Her palm flipped slightly in a subtle manner that was almost imperceptible. However, the moment Tang Zi's palm was about to collide with the great chaos essence palm, a dark black dagger appeared in each of her hands. The two daggers did not reveal any light and fused into the darkness almost perfectly. What was even more frightening was that neither Tang Zi nor the two daggers revealed any killing intent. In other words, if Su Zimo did not have his spirit perception, he wouldn't be able to sense the attack even if it was right by him if he had his eyes closed. For an assassin to cultivate to such an extent was way too terrifying. Furthermore, this was Tang Zi's first time witnessing the true Dragon 9 flashes and she was already caught off guard, losing the initiative. However, in the blink of an eye, not only did that person avoid Su Zimo's pursuit 3 times, she even calmed down rapidly and counterattacked with such a sharp killing move. Even with his strong mental fortitude, combat talent and adaptability, Su Zimo was amazed. After his ascension to the upper world, this was the first person within the same cultivation realm who made him feel threatened. Under normal circumstances, given the current strength and toughness of the Green Lotus true body, it was enough to take on any connate black-grey dermic treasure head-on. However, Su Zimo did not dare to be careless against this terrifying assassin and her twin daggers. At that moment, it was too late for him to summon the Hell Suppression Tripod. Su Zimo changed tactics at the last minute and dispelled the force of the great Chaos Essence palm. His arms were like the trunk of a divine elephant. His palms seemed weak as he placed them on the dark daggers and suddenly exerted strength. The power technique of the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness. Tang Zi felt a spinning, twisting and trembling power. Her hands could not hold on to the dark daggers and they were about to fly out of her hands. Even so, her eyes were still expressionless. Suddenly, Tang Zi opened her mouth slightly. An extremely ear-piercing sound burst forth from her lips like a sharp dagger that wanted to penetrate one's eardrums. A sound domain attack. The moment Tang Zi spoke, Su Zimo sensed something and spoke at the same time, letting out a loud dragon roar from the depths of his throat. Roar! That voice was terrifying and shuddering, containing a supreme will that surpassed all living beings. The entire cave trembled. Dragon Roar secret skill. Without the Dragon Phoenix true body, it was difficult for the Green Lotus true body to release a powerful sound domain secret skill like the Dragon Phoenix Roar. However, in Dragon Abyss City, he once used the corpse of an Azure Dragon to fight against the perfected Immortals and comprehended the technique of the Azure Dragon Roar. Thereafter, he fused the Azure Dragon and Dragon Phoenix Roar together with Thunderclap Kill that he had once cultivated before creating a Dragon Roar secret skill that was suitable for the Green Lotus true body. When released, this secret skill was even stronger and more terrifying than the pure roar of the Azure Dragon or Dragon Phoenix. The Dragon Roar secret skill burst forth and suppressed Tang Zi's sound domain secret skill, shattering it. Both parties were extremely close. At that distance, Tang Zi received the most impact. Tang Zi shuddered slightly in a daze and the power in her palm dissipated slightly. Right then, Su Zimo exerted strength in his palm and snatched the 2 dark daggers over. He crossed his hands and held them against Tang Zi's neck. At that moment, Tang Zi had also recovered from Su Zimo's Dragon Roar secret skill. Unfortunately, it was too late. With her daggers hanging by her neck, she knew very well that although the green-robed cultivator before her looked frail, he was absolutely decisive to kill. If she made any strange movements, she would definitely die on the spot. Although the entire process sounded slow, it only took a few breaths. The two of them fought, tested the waters and battled for a few rounds. Both had the advantage at times and even made use of sound domain secret skills. In the end, Su Zimo still edged ahead and won. The dust had settled. Su Zimo looked at the woman before him and heaved a sigh of relief. Although it was a short exchange, His understanding of this female assassin refreshed continuously. This woman was even more troublesome to deal with than he had imagined. At such a close distance, his Dragon Roar secret skill could even kill cultivators of the same cultivation realm. However, the female assassin recovered in the blink of an eye, albeit with a slightly pale expression. Without a strong physique and bloodline, there was no way anyone could withstand his Dragon Roar secret skill. Given this woman's body, even if she did not use any assassination methods, not many of the Black Immortals outside could defend against her head-on. Even though she was already in Su Zimo's hands and her fate was not in her control, Tang Zi's expression did not change at all and her gaze was calm. It was only then that Su Zimo felt a sharp pain in his palm as fresh blood flowed down slowly. What a sharp dagger! Su Zimo was secretly alarmed. Earlier on, he used the technique of the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness to grab the dark daggers but was still injured by them. If he had not changed his move, his palm would have been pierced by the dark daggers with ease. Su Zimo's gaze shifted. A thin blood scar had already appeared on Tang Zi's neck and fresh blood flowed down slowly along her snow-white skin. He did not use any strength at all, but Tang Zi's neck was already cut by the dark daggers. However, Tang Zi seemed as though she could not sense it and was still expressionless. There seemed to be nothing in this world that could move her. Even life and death. Chapter 1936. Manipulating Fate. Chapter 1936. Manipulating Fate. City Lord's Residence. The cave earlier on seemed to have trembled. Perfected Immortal Jingyu frowned slightly, unsure. The tremble earlier on was triggered by Su Zimo's Dragon Roar secret skill. Although the exalted immortals of the City Lord's Residence could see the situation in the 10 absolute hell through the Mirage eye, they could not hear anything inside. It was even more impossible for perfected Immortal Jingyu to know that the two people in the cave had already fought with an outcome in that short period of time. Prince Yuanzhua waved it off and said disinterestedly, "You keep watch first and let me know if anything happens, I'll check out the other." He could not see what was going on in the cave and was naturally bored staring at the entrance. 10 absolute hell. Su Zimo gripped the dark daggers with both hands and held them against Tang Zi's neck without removing them. He knew very well what this female assassin was capable of. If he relaxed slightly, he might be counterattacked by this woman. "Why did you come looking for me?" Su Zimo asked. Tang Zi was expressionless and remained silent. Suddenly, Su Zimo smiled. From the looks of it, the female assassin had no intention of speaking. Even with her daggers hanging by her neck, the woman was not afraid at all and did not even look at him. "How about this?" Su Zimo said deeply, "Let's make a deal. I can let you go, but you have to answer my questions." Seemingly moved, Tang Zi glanced at Su Zimo but remained silent. Su Zimo smiled. "Of course, if it involves any secrets that are inconvenient for you to speak about, you can choose not to. Also, if I promise to let you off, I won't go back on my words." With that said, Su Zimo put away the dark daggers and retreated a few steps to show his sincerity. This time round, Tang Zi was surprised once more. However, her expression was still extremely calm and no one could read her thoughts. The reason why she noticed Su Zimo was because she could not read him. This was a variable for her. She had another motive for coming this time round. Therefore, she did not want this variable to affect her plans. Secondly, she had been following him the entire time and was increasingly curious about him. Apart from her, all the Black Immortals who entered the 10 absolute hell had the same goal: to kill as many as possible and squeeze into the hunting ranking. However, this person roamed around the entire day without killing a single person. The strangest thing was that this person seemed to be avoiding others intentionally. In fact, he could even sense danger beforehand and avoid the habitat of some earth demons. If it was outside, Tang Zi would have had sufficient patience to stay behind Su Zimo the entire time, even if it was for a year or 10 years. In the past, in order to assassinate an Earth Immortal, she had once waited patiently for hundreds of years to ensure that nothing went wrong. A single attack. Without such a temperament, she would not have grown to her current state. However, she did not have that much time in the 10 absolute hell to observe this person's habits, cultivation, combat strength and methods. She had something more important. The simplest way was to kill this variable. That was the reason for the clash in the cave earlier on. However, Tang Zi's attack this time round also dealt a huge blow to herself. Up till this point of her cultivation, she had never tasted defeat among her peers. Even if she were to fight head-on, no one was her match. If she used many assassination methods and secret skills, she could even kill Earth Immortals across major cultivation realms. However, this time round, an unassuming and frail scholar managed to restrain her within a few breaths in the 10 absolute hell. Who was this person? What was the movement technique that this person had used previously that was close to teleportation? Why was the sound domain secret skill released by this person so similar to the dragon roar? How could it release such a terrifying might and will? What sort of physique and bloodline did this person have such that even she was suppressed? Actually, Tang Zi had even more questions, but she did not reveal it. At that moment, she was tempted when she heard Su Zimo's suggestion. However, her expression was still calm. I want to ask you some questions as well. Of course, you can choose not to say anything if it involves secrets. All right. Su Zimo nodded in agreement. Why did you enter the 10 absolute hell but not fight? Tang Zi asked before Su Zimo could. In her opinion, given Su Zimo's capabilities, it would not be difficult for him to enter the top 10 of the hunting ranking. We're all people who ascended from the lower worlds and have never met before. We don't have any deep feud, so I'm unwilling to attack. Su Zimo paused for a moment. Furthermore, it wasn't my intention to enter the 10 absolute hell. I was chosen and brought here. Tang Zi shook her head. Everyone has no choice after entering the 10 absolute hell. It's impossible for you to stay out of it. Perhaps. Su Zimo replied indifferently. However, I'm not willing to be manipulated by others. Back then, when he entered the cultivation world, it was to alter his fate. Later on, because of Su Hong's death, the citizens of the country of Yen were destitute and homeless. He even made a vow to change the fates of the masses. He had to control his own fate and would definitely not let others manipulate, control, or even toy with it. Ever since Su Zimo entered the 10 absolute hell, he had been looking for an opportunity to break free from the invisible shackles on his body. Although he seemed like he was scurrying around, his true goal was to check out the environment, terrain, and even the secrets within this prison. Both Absolute Thunder City and the 10 Absolute Hell were quite odd. There was a high chance there were secrets hidden within them. Not willing to be manipulated by others. Tang Zi murmured softly and looked at Su Zimo deeply. Over the years, countless black immortals of the lower worlds had entered the 10 absolute hell, but no one could say that. Perhaps some people resisted or were indignant, but in the end, nothing was left behind. Tang Zi said, even if you're unwilling, it's useless. If you want to leave the 10 absolute hell alive, you can only kill your way into the hunting ranking. There's no other way. Suddenly, Su Zimo asked, what happens to cultivators who survive to the end but don't enter the hunting ranking? Death. Tang Zi said, there are many earth demons in the 10 absolute hell. Because this place is isolated from essence chi and there's no way to cultivate, these earth demons usually sleep. But now, the arrival of 100,000 black immortals has already alarmed these earth demon. After all the earth demons in the 10 absolute hell awaken, none of the black immortals that remain here will survive. Su Zimo's expression was as cold as ever. Without asking, he could guess that the earth demons were definitely left behind by the exalted immortals outside. Not only did they want the 100,000 black immortals to kill one another, they even wanted these black immortals to face the danger of being hunted and devoured by earth demons at any moment. What's up with that eye in the firmaments? Su Zimo asked again. That's the Mirage eye. Tang Zi said, in the city lord's residence outside, there will be a mirage mirror at this moment. Through the Mirage eye, the situation in the 10 absolute hell will be revealed for the city lords and exalted immortals to watch and be entertained. Those were not secrets, and Tang Zi naturally did not hide them and told the truth. Chapter 1937, Prisoners. Chapter 1937. Prisoners. Entertained. Watch. Hee hee. Su Zimo grinned and his expression darkened with a cold gaze. Those exalted immortals could gather them with ease and place them in a space like a group of reared beasts for them to be killed wantonly as a form of joy. This was not a hunting meet or a fair opportunity. This was a hunting game that was meticulously prepared by the exalted immortals. The black immortals that entered the 10 absolute hell were only the prey of the exalted immortals. The true hunters were the high and mighty city lords and exalted immortals outside. Su Zimo believed that even if the 100 black immortals on the hunting ranking could leave the 10 absolute hell alive, it would be difficult for them to stand out in the future. In the dark cave, Tang Zi's heart skipped a beat and she shuddered when she saw Su Zimo's smile. Even when her daggers were hanging by her neck and her life was hanging by a thread, she was not afraid. However, at that moment, she suddenly felt that Su Zimo's gaze was a little scary. How often does a hunting meet like this take place? Su Zimo asked. Tang Zi said, under normal circumstances, it's held once every 10,000 years. However, only a few thousand years have passed since the previous hunting meet. I don't know why it's suddenly brought forward. Su Zimo thought for a moment and suddenly asked, apart from for the exalted immortals to enjoy, is there any other purpose for this hunting meet? Tang Zi's expression changed slightly but she did not reply. Su Zimo realized that there was a high chance that this matter had touched on some secret. Even if he asked, there would be no result. At that thought, Su Zimo changed the topic and asked, I took a spin around the 10 absolute hell and discovered that there's a large area in the center of this prison that's a little strange. There are no living beings around and even the earth demons in the prison are far away. What's going on there? It was more like a forbidden ground. Su Zimo could sense an extremely strong sense of danger that far surpassed the threat of an earth demon. Therefore, he merely looked from afar and did not approach. That's the center of the 10 absolute hell and also the forbidden ground. Tang Zi said, in that area, there are 10 shocking immortal formations that conceal the world. Among them, the Howling Wind Formation, Frost Formation, Golden Light Formation, Blood Transformation Formation, Raging Flame Formation, Dejected Soul Formation, Flood Formation and Red Silk Formation are arranged in 8 directions and seal the surroundings. Finally, the Heaven Absolute Formation and Earth Splitter Formation seals the 2 exits of heaven and earth, forming an impenetrable prison. Nobody can enter, let alone get out. Even if a heaven demon were to barge into the formation, they would die within a few breaths, let alone an earth demon. The meaning of 10 absolute is to sever the path of life and death by all means. Su Zimo was shocked. So, the origin of the 10 absolute hell was because of the 10 formations. Sealing heaven and earth with absolutely no chance of survival, this 10 absolute formation is way too vicious. Who is suppressed within? Su Zimo asked in a deep voice. Tang Zi remained silent. Just as Su Zimo thought that Tang Zi would not speak, she suddenly said, around hundreds of thousands of years ago, someone ascended from the lower world. That person's talent and endowment are unparalleled in the world. Although he was from the lower worlds, he only used a short 2,000 years to break through to become an Earth Immortal and was ranked at the top of the Earth ranking. 6,000 years later, he advanced to become a Heaven Immortal and became one of the youngest Heaven Immortals in the Divine Firmament Immortal domain. Thereafter, he obtained the number 1 of the Heaven ranking at the Divine Firmament Immortal meet and became the number 1 Heaven Immortal of the Divine Firmament Immortal domain, becoming famous. Although Su Zimo did not know what the Heaven and Earth rankings were, he was slightly engrossed. As someone from the lower worlds, one would have to experience countless dangers and difficulties if they wanted to cultivate in the upper world. It was truly not easy for this person to obtain such accomplishments. Tang Zi continued, anyone who can obtain the top of the Heaven and Earth ranking will definitely be able to advance to become a perfected immortal. Furthermore, that person was highly regarded by the Divine Firmament Immortal Emperor, and was accepted as a legacy disciple. He was from the lower worlds but was accepted by an immortal emperor of the Divine Firmament Immortal domain. It was clear how strong this person was. Tang Zi paused for a moment. At the 9 Firmament Immortal domain meet, this person suppressed everyone and defeated all the paragons and monster incarnates of the various immortal domains. He was invincible among perfected immortals and obtained the number 1 of the perfected immortal ranking, being conferred the title of a supreme perfected immortal. Supreme meant that there was nothing more superior. Nobody could be above him, that was supreme. Even though Tang Zi described it extremely calmly without any emotional fluctuation, the narrated experience still made one's blood boil and scalp tingle. Could that supreme perfected immortal of the past be suppressed in this 10 absolute hell? Su Zimo could not help but ask. Tang Zi remained silent as a silent acknowledgement. Su Zimo shook his head gently. It was truly hard to imagine how such a paragon could fall from grace and end up in such a state. How could this be? Su Zimo asked with a frown. Tang Zi said, this supreme perfected immortal came from the lower worlds. Therefore, he had a strong ideological conflict with the native exalted immortal experts of the upper world. This supreme perfected immortal felt that all living beings in the divine firmament immortal domain, be it from the lower worlds or upper world, should be treated equally. He advocated giving living beings of the lower world sufficient cultivation resources, so that living beings that ascend from the lower worlds can obtain a relatively fair opportunity. He once made the decision to pass down recipes of immortal pills such as the essence condensation and major essence condensation pills. He wanted to establish an immortal kingdom that could provide for the living beings of the lower worlds to cultivate without being bullied by other exalted immortal. At that point, Su Zimo felt a sense of reverence. It was nothing much if he merely obtained the title of a supreme perfected immortal. However, it was extremely rare to possess such magnanimity. Tang Zi continued, at that time, there was no great gene immortal kingdom and no immortal king ruled over this territory. There were a few immortal kings under the 9 firmament immortal emperor who wanted to become kings here. In the end, there were only 2 left. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. The current great gene immortal king was one of them. Tang Zi nodded. The other one was this supreme perfected immortal. However, he had yet to advance to the immortal king realm at that time. He was qualified because everyone knew that given his talent, he would definitely become a top-tier expert among immortal kings once he was conferred the title of king. This supreme perfected immortal wanted to establish an immortal kingdom of his own to protect the living beings of the lower worlds. Therefore, he forcefully broke through and wanted to be conferred the title of king as soon as possible to fight against King Jin. Did something happen during this period of time? Su Zimo narrowed his eyes slightly. Tang Zi said, at a critical juncture of his seclusion cultivation, he was plotted against and failed his breakthrough. Su Zimo opened his mouth slightly and froze on the spot. That short statement revealed endless sadness, helplessness, despair and indignance. There was also an unimaginable bloodstorm. King Jin attacked. Su Zimo's eyes flashed coldly. The greatest beneficiary of this matter was the current great Jin immortal king. The greatest possibility was that the great Jin immortal king felt threatened and killed that threat in advance. King Jin was not the one who attacked. Tang Zi said, the person who attacked has a status in the great Jin immortal kingdom right now. He's beneath a single person and above everyone else. He's King Tianhuang who established the execution guards single-handedly. Chapter 1938. This path is not severed. Chapter 1938. This path is not severed. King Tianhuang. Su Zimo sneered. The eventual beneficiary of this matter was King Jin. King Tianhuang plotted against this prisoner but did not receive any punishment and was instead highly regarded by King Jin. The latter was definitely involved in this. Now that he heard such a shocking secret, apart from astonishment, Su Zimo still had some doubts. Is this 10 absolute formation truly so powerful that it can trap a supreme perfected immortal? Su Zimo frowned and asked, even if this expert was plotted against and failed his breakthrough, he's still a supreme perfected immortal. As long as his cultivation is still present, his Tao will not be destroyed. At that point, his expression changed, as though he realized something and could not continue. Tang Zi nodded. You're right. When that person broke through, he was ambushed by King Tianhuang and was severely injured. King Tianhuang was worried that this person would seek revenge on him after recovering, so he shattered the latter's Tao fruit. Su Zimo was shocked. Back in the lower worlds, he had come into contact with the Tao fruit through Dai Yu. Su Zimo did not know much about the Tao fruit. He only knew that the Tao fruit was the foundation and essence of a perfected immortal. The shattering of the Tao fruit meant that one's cultivation would be destroyed overnight. There was no possibility of one cultivating again in the future. This was a huge blow for cultivators. If they were merely dispirited and relegated to ordinariness, it would still be a good ending. If their Tao hearts collapsed and their essence spirits deteriorated, they wouldn't be able to live for long. How long has this senior been imprisoned for? Su Zimo asked. Several 100,000 years. Tang Zi said indifferently, this absolute Thunder City and 10 absolute hell were built for him. A thought flashed through Su Zimo's mind. However, the news he heard earlier on was way too shocking and he did not think too much about it. He was imprisoned here for hundreds of thousands of years and even lost his Tao fruit. He must have died a long time ago. Su Zimo shook his head gently. Even a normal person would not be able to withstand the blow of being suppressed for hundreds of thousands of years, let alone losing their Tao fruit. Dark without daylight and a bleak future, surrounded by endless loneliness and humiliation at every moment. The pain was unimaginable. Perhaps. Tang Zi replied indifferently. Su Zimo said angrily, King Tianhuang has already crippled this person's Tao fruit and yet he wants to imprison him here for the rest of his life. He's way too vicious. Tang Zi did not say anything. However, an imperceptible sadness flashed through the depths of her eyes and disappeared quickly. Suddenly, Su Zimo thought of an answer. That was a question that Tang Zi did not answer when he asked her earlier on. The hunting meet had been held for so many years. Apart from providing entertainment for the exalted immortals outside, what other motives did it have? When he found out about the secret from hundreds of thousands of years ago, Su Zimo realized that there was a more important purpose for this hunting meet. It was to humiliate the previous supreme perfected immortal and destroy his Tao heart. Since you want to establish an immortal kingdom to protect the living beings of the lower worlds, I'll let you witness them killing one another in the 10 absolute hell. I'll let you witness the living beings of the lower worlds being manipulated by us like a bunch of reared beasts while you're helpless. I'll let you endure this mental torment for all eternity. I'll let your beliefs crumble so that your Tao heart will collapse. The 10 absolute formation was not the only thing that imprisoned this supreme perfected immortal. It was also the blood and corpses of many cultivators of the lower worlds who had died on this land for hundreds of thousands of years. This was 10,000 times more sinister than killing or being imprisoned for hundreds of thousands of years. Su Zimo shuddered just thinking about it. Tang Zi said, actually, be it absolute Thunder City, 10 absolute hell or the hunting meet, there's another meaning to it. That's to intimidate all cultivators and living beings. Anyone who has the same thought of establishing an immortal kingdom for the living beings of the lower worlds will end up like this supreme perfected immortal. King Tianhuang is telling the world that whoever steps onto this path along the tracks of this supreme perfected immortal will die. Tang Zi said, the facts have proven that King Tianhuang succeeded. For hundreds of thousands of years, no one in divine firmament mainland dared to stand out and speak up for the living beings of the lower world. Once that supreme perfected immortal failed, this path was severed. Suddenly, Su Zimo said, this path is not severed. Tang Zi glanced sideways. Su Zimo said slowly, I'll continue on this path. Even if it's severed, I can repair it. You can't continue. The path ahead is already severed. If you take another half a step forward, you'll be in a bottomless abyss. Tang Zi shook her head gently. Su Zimo said, even if the path ahead is a bottomless abyss, I'm fearless. Even if I fall into pieces, I have no regrets. Tang Zi's heart skipped a beat as she looked at Su Zimo in disbelief. At that moment, Su Zimo's tone was resolute and his gaze was firm. The light released from his eyes seemed to surpass the stars and the sun and moon. Su Zimo felt a strong sense of injustice. Back in Tianhuang mainland, when he saw how all living beings in the world could not cultivate and were bullied by cultivators and slaughtered by fiend demons, he had the same strong sense of injustice. At that time, he made a vow to establish the martial Tao and bless all living beings. This time round, Su Zimo wanted to change the fate of the living beings of the lower worlds. That was because he was from the lower worlds. Monkey, the spirit tiger, Ching Ching, night spirit, little fox, the golden lion. These siblings of his were also from the lower worlds. Baiming Xue and Carefree, his two disciples, were from the lower worlds as well. All his old friends had ascended from the lower worlds. He could empathize with the bullying, injustice and suffering of the living beings of the lower worlds. When he heard about the experience of this supreme perfected immortal, Su Zimo could no longer suppress the sense of injustice in his heart. If I feel unjust, I'll quell this injustice completely. I'm Desolate Marshal from the lower worlds. One day, I'll create a pure land for the living beings of the lower worlds. Su Zimo clenched his fists and said slowly, in the future, I'm going to let all living beings of the upper world know of Desolate Marshal's name. Why you? Tang Zi was indignant and wanted to say something to attack Su Zimo. However, at that moment, the heroic aura that Su Zimo displayed gave her an indescribable feeling. For a moment, she froze on the spot and merely looked at Su Zimo in a daze. A moment later, as though she realized something, she turned around hurriedly and whispered, "You're far from that." Su Zimo knew that the path to the upper world would be even more difficult and dangerous. Given his current strength, it was extremely difficult for him to even have his own place in the great Gene Immortal Kingdom, let alone establish a pure land. This prisoner was once extremely talented. However, in the end, he ended up in such a state where he was worse off than dead. As Tang Zi had said, he was way too far from that. The cave fell into a long silence. Su Zimo and Tang Zi stood opposite one another, deep in their own thoughts. Neither of them spoke. Sigh. Suddenly, Su Zimo heard a sigh. That sigh was ancient and seemed to have descended from the sands of time, carrying a deep emotion that moved one. Chapter 1939. Someone from Tianhuang Mainland. Chapter 1939. Someone from Tianhuang Mainland. The sigh seemed extremely sudden in the quiet cave. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat and he tensed up with a guarded expression. The sigh clearly came from a man and not Tang Zi. Could there be someone else in the cave? He had conversed with Tang Zi in the cave for so long, but he did not notice this person's existence. Su Zimo looked at Tang Zi. The latter had a calm expression and there was nothing unusual about her, as though she had not heard the sigh at all. Releasing his spirit consciousness, Su Zimo scanned the cave carefully but to no avail. The sigh did not seem to have come from the cave. Instead, it sounded in his mind. Stop searching. I'm not there. The old and mysterious voice sounded in Su Zimo's mind once more. Who are you? Su Zimo did not say anything and merely asked with his spirit consciousness. Who am I? Who am I? The mysterious person murmured softly but did not reply. He merely sighed emotionally. To think that I would be able to see someone from Tianhuang Mainland after so many years. Su Zimo was shocked. It had been more than 1,000 years since he ascended to the upper world, and he had never mentioned to anyone which minor kiliacosm he came from or Tianhuang Mainland. However, this mysterious person exposed his background with a single sentence. Why you? Instantly, countless questions filled Su Zimo's mind. He could not react in time and did not know where to start. You don't have to be nervous. The mysterious person said, I can recognize your background because I'm also from Tianhuang Mainland. Su Zimo was dumbfounded. He had not expected to encounter someone from Tianhuang Mainland here. Furthermore, the methods of this mysterious person seemed to have far surpassed the scope of a black immortal. There was a high chance that he was a senior from Tianhuang Mainland who ascended before him. Of course, even so, Su Zimo was still extremely cautious and did not believe it easily. Even if you're from Tianhuang Mainland, how did you recognize that I'm from Tianhuang Mainland? Su Zimo asked instead. The mysterious person said, the great Chaos Essence palm you used earlier was created by the Essence Emperor. He has his own legacy sect in Tianhuang Mainland called Chaos Essence Sect. I wonder if it's still around. At that point, Su Zimo no longer had any doubts. Anyone who could recount those past events accurately was definitely someone from Tianhuang Mainland. Right then, the mysterious person continued. I sensed a familiar aura from the sound domain secret skill you released earlier on. You should have cultivated a cultivation technique, the Void Thunder Manual. Su Zimo was even more surprised. His Dragon Roar secret skill was indeed fused with some of the secret skills of Thunderclap Kill. To think that this mysterious person would be able to deduce his cultivation technique with a single secret skill. Just as Su Zimo was startled, the mysterious person continued, I left the Void Thunder Manual in Tianhuang Mainland as a legacy before I ascended. Ah! Su Zimo's expression changed starkly as he bolted upright. almost losing his voice. You are. Sensing Su Zimo's abnormality, Tang Zi was a little nervous as well. Retreating, she widened the distance between them and glared at Su Zimo, asking, "What are you doing?" Su Zimo realized that he had lost his composure and took a deep breath to compose himself. He could not be blamed. What he heard earlier on had truly shocked him immensely. He had not expected to encounter someone from Tianhuang Mainland here. More than that, he had not expected that the person he encountered in Tianhuang Mainland would be the legendary Thunder Emperor who had ascended to the upper world in the same era as the Eternal Human Emperor. Suddenly, Su Zimo thought of a possibility. He looked at Tang Zi and asked, "Is the person trapped in the 10 Absolute Formation good at using thunder techniques?" "That's right," Tang Zi said. At that moment, many things gradually became clear before Su Zimo's eyes. The prisoner Tang Zi mentioned earlier on, that Supreme Perfected Immortal, was the Thunder Emperor of Tianhuang Mainland. The reason why Absolute Thunder City severed all power of thunder was also to suppress the Thunder Emperor. With a stern expression, Su Zimo bowed deeply in the direction of the 10 Absolute Formation. "What are you doing?" Tang Zi was puzzled when she saw Su Zimo's strange behavior and asked. Su Zimo did not explain. His bow was not only because he cultivated the Void Thunder Manual or because of the fact that the Thunder Emperor fought for the human race back in the ancient era in Tianhuang Mainland. More than that, it was because of everything the Thunder Emperor did in the upper world. It was for his magnanimity and boldness. Well done on saying those words earlier on, as expect of someone from Tianhuang Mainland. The Thunder Emperor's voice sounded in Su Zimo's mind, however. "It's better for you to not continue on this path. This path is way too difficult. Throughout history, countless living beings of the lower worlds have tried but failed. In fact, many people disappeared into the sands of time without a trace." Su Zimo was silent. He understood that the Thunder Emperor's persuasion was out of goodwill. Nobody knew better than the Thunder Emperor how difficult this path was. That was the reason why he could say that. The Thunder Emperor could tell that Su Zimo was a rare genius. However, he had roamed the upper world for many years and had seen all sorts of geniuses. He persuaded Su Zimo to turn back and not step onto this path because he did not want to see this person of Tianhuang Mainland strike a stone with an egg in a moment of passion and die prematurely on this path filled with corpses. However, although Su Zimo had heard of the Thunder Emperor, the latter did not know him. He did not understand Su Zimo, nor did he know the latter's personality. More than that, he did not know that Su Zimo had once established the martial Tao in the lower world and blessed all living beings. Known as the Eternal Martial Emperor, his accomplishments even surpassed the human emperor. Su Zimo did not explain either. The Thunder Emperor continued, "Apart from me, there was also Lin Zhan who ascended from Tianhuang Mainland back then. He ascended to the Green Firmament Immortal Domain and became an immortal king before me. He was even highly regarded by Green Firmament Immortal Emperor, and was conferred the title of Battle King. I've been imprisoned here all these years and no longer have any news of him. However, I believe that with his methods and strength, he will definitely be able to establish an immortal kingdom in the Green Firmament Immortal Domain. Although Brother Lin and I are not in the same immortal domain, we have the same ideals and beliefs. If you have the chance to head to the Green Firmament Immortal Domain after leaving this place, why don't you look for him? He'll definitely be extremely happy if he knows that you're from Tianhuang Mainland." At that point, the Thunder Emperor paused for a moment. "Right, you might not know who Lin Zhan is, but you definitely know his title in Tianhuang Mainland. He's the Eternal Human Emperor." Ah! Su Zimo was shocked. This was the first time he knew the name of the Eternal Human Emperor. This was also the first time he knew anything about the Eternal Human Emperor after ascending to the upper world. Su Zimo murmured internally, "I wonder how Senior Human Emperor is doing." "What happened?" The Thunder Emperor could tell what Su Zimo was implying and asked. Su Zimo did not hide anything and recounted the battle at Enigma Palace and the return of the Human Emperor to Tianhuang Mainland. At that time, although the Human Emperor returned to the upper world, he was clearly severely injured. Breaking through the barrier of the world and forcefully descending is way too dangerous. The Thunder Emperor said, "At best, his Tao will be destroyed. At worst, he might even die. Unfortunately, I'm trapped here and can't help much." Chapter 1940 Thunder Emperor's Inheritance. Chapter 1940 Thunder Emperor's Inheritance. Senior Thunder Emperor. Are there any flaws in the 10 Absolute Formation? I know a little about array formations and want to see if I can dispel it and save you. Su Zimo asked. There's no need. The Thunder Emperor sighed gently. The origin of this 10 Absolute Formation is immense and its power is terrifying. There was once a perfected Immortal Formation Grandmaster, who came and tried to dispel it to save me. However, he was buried in it as well. Su Zimo remained silent. Actually, he knew in his heart that although his attainments in array formations were extremely high in Tianhuang Mainland, his understanding of formations was way too shallow against the many immortal formations of the upper world. My spirit consciousness can't hold on for much longer. The Thunder Emperor's voice sounded once more, but it was clearly much weaker than before. The Thunder Emperor was imprisoned for hundreds of thousands of years and his Tao fruit was shattered. It took a huge toll on him to be able to release his spirit consciousness and communicate with Su Zimo outside the 10 Absolute Formation. He could not hold on for much longer. The Thunder Emperor continued, I've been trapped here for hundreds of thousands of years. Over the years, I've reorganized and summarized the Void Thunder Manual and gained some new insights. I'll impart the complete Void Thunder Manual to you. I hope that this cultivation technique will be of help to you. Su Zimo was shocked. The Thunder Emperor relied on this Void Thunder Manual to fight his way through and look down on everyone before being conferred the title of a Supreme Perfected Immortal. One could imagine how powerful that cultivation technique was. Furthermore, the Thunder Emperor had comprehended even more over the hundreds of thousands of years. The Void Thunder Manual will be in a good place if it's passed down to someone from Tianhuang Mainland. I can die without regret. Su Zimo was about to speak. Suddenly, the Thunder Emperor's voice changed and an obscure text sounded in Su Zimo's mind. Every single word contained a righteous and ferocious aura of thunder with a terrifying might. In Su Zimo's mind, those words seemed to have transformed into thunder talismans that shone with electric currents. After a long time, the entire Void Thunder Manual was imprinted in Su Zimo's mind. This cultivation technique was vast, mysterious and unfathomable. For a moment, Su Zimo could not comprehend its essence. At that moment, the Thunder Emperor's voice was getting weaker. There are also some insights. I'll try my best to explain them to you. Remember as much as you can. The Thunder Emperor imparted his insights of the Void Thunder Manual. Although Su Zimo had cultivated the Void Thunder Manual before, it was incomplete. Furthermore, that was only a thunder divine power of the lower worlds. It was only at that moment that the door to the Tao of Thunder opened slowly to Su Zimo with the help of the Thunder Emperor, giving him a chance to catch a glimpse of its secrets. The Thunder Emperor's voice gradually weakened until it disappeared. Of course, the Thunder Emperor did not manage to impart his comprehension of the Void Thunder Manual completely. Even so, the comprehension and understanding of the Tao of Thunder earlier on was enough for Su Zimo to use for the rest of his life. The information contained by the Thunder Emperor's dermic art was way too immense. It was difficult for Su Zimo to digest and absorb them in a short period of time. He could only memorize everything for the time being and look for a suitable opportunity to comprehend and cultivate. Right now, he had something more important. He had to think of a way to get the Thunder Emperor out. Su Zimo also knew that given his capabilities, it was almost impossible for him to dispel the 10 Absolute Formation and save the Thunder Emperor. Back then, even a perfected immortal who wanted to dispel the 10 Absolute Formation died within. He was way too inferior. Furthermore, even if he could dispel the 10 Absolute Formation and see the Thunder Emperor, so what? The Thunder Emperor's Tao fruit was shattered and he might be at the end of his road after being trapped for hundreds of thousands of years. There were also many exalted immortals and even perfected immortals watching outside the 10 Absolute Formation. Even he might not be able to leave the 10 Absolute Hell alive, let alone take the Thunder Emperor with him. Even so, Su Zimo had to think of a way to give it a shot. If he did not know the identity of the prisoner, he might not have taken the risk to harbor such thoughts. But now that he knew that the Thunder Emperor was trapped here, he would feel uneasy if he left without doing anything. Absolute Thunder City. City Lord's residence. As time passed by, the massacre in the 10 Absolute Hell intensified. More and more earth demons woke up and slaughtered wantonly in the 10 absolute hell. As for the black immortals inside, their living space decreased. The rankings on the hunting ranking changed continuously as well. Some of the black immortals even managed to attain dozens of names under their belts. However, they disappeared from the hunting ranking the next moment. This meant that those black immortals were already dead. However, the few that the city lords and exalted immortals thought highly of at the beginning, such as Li Tian and Jian Yu, were still on the hunting ranking and were extremely high. Awesome! That Li Tian has already killed more than 300 people. Jian Yu isn't bad either, he's close behind. Many city lords and exalted immortals exclaimed excitedly. The bloodshed and killing in the 10 absolute hell triggered the nerves of many city lords and exalted immortals at all times. Prince Yuanzhua ate his immortal fruits leisurely with a smile. Thereafter, as though he recalled something, he suddenly asked, Jingyu, Su Zimo and Tang Zi are still in the cave after so long? They're not out yet? No. Perfected immortal Jingyu shook his head with a puzzled expression. Logically speaking, after such a long time, the outcome should have been decided a long time ago. However, there was still no activity from the cave. From above, the Mirage I could clearly see that there was no other way out of the cave. In other words, the two of them should still be in the cave. Could the two of them have died together? Lu Yu laughed. That's a possibility. Perfected immortal Jing Yu murmured softly and swept his gaze across the Mirage mirror. Suddenly, his expression changed as he said, Your Highness, look. Prince Yuanzhua followed perfected immortal Jing Yu's guidance and looked over. Through the Mirage mirror, a group of more than 100 cultivators were heading towards the cave where Su Zimo and Tang Zi were. Some black immortals chose to operate alone after entering the 10 absolute hell. Although operating alone lacked strength, it had the movement advantage. One was also a smaller target and wouldn't attract much attention. There were also some black immortals who chose to join forces with others. They could form groups of 3 to 5, dozens or even 100 people, forming various teams. However, those teams only had slightly more than 100 people at most. If there were too many of them and the group became too large, they would be targeted by the many earth demons. Furthermore, if there were too many people and they encountered danger, it would be chaotic and it would be difficult to command everyone. Perfected immortal Jingyu smiled gently. Your Highness, the leader of this group is Ying Fei. Right now, he's ranked 8th on the hunting ranking. He's ruthless and extremely strong. He's already killed more than 200 people by now. His group has already destroyed more than 10 other groups and escaped alive from the massacre of 2 earth demons. These remaining people are not weak after experiencing the baptism of life, death and bloodshed. Prince Yuanzhua nodded slightly. Perfected immortal Jingyu continued, If they enter the cave, we'll know if the 2 people inside are dead or alive. Chapter 1941. Extremely Shameless. Chapter 1941. Extremely Shameless. 10 Absolute Hell, Cave. Su Zimo played with the dark daggers in his hands while pondering about the Thunder Emperor. Suddenly, Tang Zi asked, What happened to you earlier on? The Thunder Emperor and Su Zimo were communicating through their spirit consciousnesses the entire time and Tang Zi could not hear them at all. However, she could still sense the abnormality in Su Zimo. Nothing much. Su Zimo replied casually with a calm expression. The matter of the Thunder Emperor was extremely important, and he could not tell anyone casually. Tang Zi's gaze shifted to Su Zimo's dark daggers. Suddenly, her pupils constricted slightly before returning to normal. She could not help but ask, The injury on your hand has healed? She knew best how terrifying the dark daggers were. Not only were the daggers sharp, they could tear open wounds and cause a large amount of life force to be destroyed, causing blood to flow endlessly. Her physique was extremely strong and her regeneration capabilities were shocking. Even so, the wound on her neck caused by the dark daggers earlier on had only just healed and a trace of blood could be seen. However, the wound on the palm of the person before her was much deeper and more serious than the wound on her neck. Now, it had already healed without any signs of injury. What was the physique and bloodline of this person? Su Zimo merely smiled without saying anything. The matter of his Green Lotus true body was one of his greatest secrets and must not be exposed. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he suddenly thought of something. He looked at Tang Zi, who was not far away, and asked with a bright gaze, "How do you know so much about this supreme perfected immortal?" Tang Zi was expressionless as she met Su Zimo's gaze. Without avoiding it, she said indifferently, "I heard it from elsewhere as well. It's all rumors and I don't know if it's true either." Actually, Tang Zi was already feeling a little regretful. However, given her temperament, she would not reveal any emotions. Under normal circumstances, she would definitely not reveal such secrets to outsiders casually. Furthermore, the two of them did not know one another and merely met by chance. The reason why she revealed those secrets was because of what the green-robed cultivator had said previously. His pride and boldness moved her. She could sense that the green-robed cultivator was different from others. He was different from everyone she had seen before. "You can leave." Just as Tang Zi's imagination was running wild, Su Zimo's voice sounded. This person had indeed kept his promise and did not attack her. However, Tang Zi did not leave. She looked at the pair of dark daggers in Su Zimo's hands and pursed her lips in silence. Su Zimo was slightly stunned before he understood. He could not help but laugh and ask, "Why? You wanted to kill me earlier on and now you want this pair of ferocious weapons back?" Under Su Zimo's gaze, Tang Zi felt a little embarrassed and her cheeks turned red. She knew in her heart that her thoughts were a little naive and overboard. However, that person's smile was truly detestable. "I kept my promise and let you leave, don't push your luck." Su Zimo moved his hands and the daggers collided gently, letting out a clear sound as sparks flew. He said with a fake smile, "This pair of daggers can be considered as a treasure since they can cut me. They will belong to me in the future." Although Tang Zi was expressionless, she was about to explode internally. "To think that I thought that this person was extraordinary earlier on. Now, I know that he's the same as everyone else. He's extremely shameless and greedy." Tang Zi was secretly frustrated and her gaze was cold. Her father had forged the dark daggers for her personally, and they meant a lot to her. She had carried them with her all these years and had never lost them. To think that they would fall into the hands of an outsider today due to a moment of carelessness. If it was any other time, she would have killed this person long ago. But now that she was in absolute Thunder City, her bloodline was suppressed and her combat strength could not be released to its peak. She knew that even if she attacked, she might not be a match for this person and would only embarrass herself. At that thought, Tang Zi grit her teeth and glared at Su Zimo coldly before turning towards the entrance of the cave. After taking a few steps, she was still indignant. With her back facing Su Zimo, she said slowly, "I'll definitely retrieve this pair of daggers personally." With that said, Tang Zi disappeared into the darkness of the cave. Ying Fei and the others arrived nearby and searched the storage bags of some cultivators who died to see if they could find anything useful. Essence Qi was isolated in the 10 Absolute Hell. After a huge battle, some elixirs that could recover Essence Qi were extremely important. "Boss Ying, there seems to be some activity in that cave over there." A black immortal's expression changed as he glared at the cave not far away and whispered. Even without this person's reminder, Ying Fei had already sensed it. There were people in the cave. Ying Fei smirked with a cold expression and waved his hand. The cultivators behind him understood and summoned their weapons and dermic treasures, forming an encirclement around the cave entrance as they approached slowly. Before long, a purple figure appeared at the entrance of the cave. It was Tang Zi. "Boss Ying, she's alone." A black immortal grinned eagerly. For groups like theirs, they would definitely not let anyone off if they were alone or in groups of 3 to 5. That was because as long as the group of them joined forces, there was almost no danger and they could kill the other party without much effort. "It's her." Ying Fei narrowed his eyes slightly and a cold glint flashed as he recognized Tang Zi. Before entering the 10 Absolute Hell, he had already asked around and found out that Tang Zi was extremely mysterious and powerful, not to be trifled with. "Boss Ying, leave this person to me?" A short cultivator at the side whispered, "If I kill another person, I might be able to squeeze to the bottom of the hunting ranking." "All right." Ying Fei said deeply, "Go on, be careful. This woman might be troublesome to deal with." "Don't worry, Boss Ying. Don't you trust my methods?" The short cultivator chuckled and charged towards Tang Zi in a flash. Although the short cultivator was not even at the waist of an ordinary person, his movement technique was shockingly fast and he arrived before Tang Zi in the blink of an eye. He cultivated the Tao of assassination and was like a fish in water in the environment of the 10 absolute hell. In this group, the number of people he killed was second only to Ying Fei. Die! The short cultivator hollered and stood up with a cold, thin sword in his hands, piercing towards Tang Zi's chest. Tang Zi did not move at all, as though she could not see anything. Just as the thin sword was about to pierce Tang Zi's chest, the short cultivator before her suddenly dissipated and vanished. Behind Tang Zi, the short cultivator leaped up and stabbed towards the back of her head with a sharp blade. This was one of his trump cards. The previous image was merely conjured by his secret skill to distort reality. However, his true body hid behind and released a fatal attack. With that secret skill, he had never failed in the 10 absolute hell. Poof! Blood splattered in midair. Many cultivators widened their eyes with frozen expressions. Before the short cultivator's blade could stab down, Tang Zi seemed to have eyes behind her and flung her hand back. Her wide and soft sleeves were suddenly tied up like an iron rod, crushing the short cultivator's head. One move. The short cultivator died on the spot. Chapter 1942. Immortal Whale Sound. Chapter 1942. Immortal Whale Sound. Up till this point of her cultivation, this was the first time that Tang Zi had encountered such a setback in the hands of a cultivator of the same cultivation realm and even lost her personal dermic treasure. Although she did not show it, there was a fire in her heart that she had nowhere to vent. The short cultivator had just arrived and the rage in Tang Zi's heart burst forth instantly, killing him. Although this person specialized in assassination, he was far inferior compared to Tang Zi. Damn it, let's attack together. Kill her. Although the death of the short cultivator shocked the surrounding cultivators, everyone calmed down quickly with ferocious gazes. Most people who dared to enter the 10 absolute hell were not easy to deal with. Furthermore, their group had been through many bloody battles along the way and the remaining people were all ruthless characters. More than 10 grade 9 black immortals attacked at the same time. Dermic treasures, divine powers, immortal arts and secret skills burst forth and tore through the air, enveloping Tang Zi instantly. Ah! Tang Zi opened her mouth slightly and an extremely sharp voice burst forth from the depths of her throat with a terrifying penetrative power. This was a sound domain secret skill that she had cultivated, the Immortal Whale Sound. This sound domain secret skill was inspired by the immortal whale. When cultivated to its limits, it would become all-encompassing even at a low volume. Earlier on in the cave, Tang Zi released the Immortal Whale Sound. However, the moment the Immortal Whale Sound was released, it was suppressed by Su Zimo's Dragon Roar secret skill and could not unleash its full might. But now, the dozens of black immortals that attacked endured the impact of the Immortal Whale Sound head-on. It was only now that the terror of this sound domain secret skill was revealed. Ah! The grade 9 black immortals at the front curled up and covered their ears with both hands, revealing pained expressions. Their dermic treasures lost control and fell from midair. Their divine powers and secret skills dissipated instantly and posed no threat to Tang Zi. Before long, blood seeped out from the gaps between the fingers of the grade 9 black immortals. The Immortal Whale Sound had already penetrated their eardrums. Although the other grade 9 black immortals were slightly further away, they shuddered and looked dazed. To others, such a daze might not be much. However, there were too many things that Tang Zi could do. Tang Zi was expressionless as she waved her purple sleeves and swept past the few grade 9 black immortals before her. Poof, poof, poof. Her sleeves changed and turned incomparably tough instantly, slicing the few grade 9 black immortals into two gigantic sabers. Tang Zi did not stop attacking. In a flash, she arrived before a few grade 9 black immortals a distance away and waved her sleeves once more. The few grade 9 black immortals had just snapped out of their stupor when they saw two purple sabers slashing over with a domineering might. None of them could react in time. Poof, poof, poof. A few large heads flew up with widened eyes. Although they had already left their necks, their faces were still filled with disbelief. In the blink of an eye, the dozens of grade 9 black immortals that attacked were killed by Tang Zi like vegetables. None of them were spared. This time round, even Ying Fei was alarmed and looked nervous, let alone the other cultivators. Tang Zi was even more troublesome to deal with than he had imagined. Even if he attacked, he might not be a match for this person. Tang Zi was expressionless. After killing more than 10 people, the anger in her heart eased slightly. Even without the dark daggers, she was more than enough to kill the entire group of more than 100 people. Just as Tang Zi was about to attack, her heart skipped a beat. She turned to look at the cave behind her and her lips curled as though she recalled something. Killing the black immortals before her would benefit the shameless person in the cave instead. She might as well keep them alive and let them go to the cave to cause trouble for that shameless person. Actually, Tang Zi knew it as well. Since she could kill all of them, the person in the cave could definitely do the same. However, she could at least annoy that person by doing this. Don't you not want to fight with others? Don't you like to hide? Let's see where you can hide now that these people have you trapped in the cave. At that thought, Tang Zi's mood improved significantly. She ignored the surrounding black immortals and sped towards the gap in the crowd. Tang Zi's movement technique was extremely fast. The surrounding black immortals were also stunned by her methods and were wary. In that momentary distraction, Tang Zi managed to charge out. "Boss, should we chase?" A black immortal gulped and asked hesitantly with a wary expression. Actually, Ying Fei heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Tang Zi leave. However, he did not show it on his face and merely harumphed coldly. "Don't chase a cornered enemy. I'll spare her life for today. If we meet again, I'll suppress her personally." "You are right, boss." Many black immortals understood what was going on, but they still agreed verbally. "Let's check out that cave," Ying Fei said in a deep voice. "If there's no problem, let's rest there first." Before Tang Zi left, she suddenly turned back to look at the cave, causing Ying Fei to feel puzzled. Under Ying Fei's lead, everyone headed towards the cave. City Lord's residence. The many city lords, exalted immortals, perfected immortal Jingyu and Prince Yuan's witnessed everything as well. Tang Zi's methods are indeed not weak. Perfected immortal Jingyu said, "In my opinion, this woman had already restrained herself and did not use her full strength." The city lord of Absolute Thunder City said, "Since Tang Zi came out of the cave, it means that Su Zimo should be dead." "He's not dead. That person is still alive." Suddenly, Prince Yuan's spoke. "The spirit consciousness on his hunting badge has not been erased." Lu Yu frowned. "That's strange. Tang Zi and Su Zimo were in the cave for so long but an outcome was not decided?" Tang Zi was injured in the cave. Perfected immortal Jingyu narrowed his eyes slightly. "There's a newly healed scar on her neck." "County Governor, are you saying that Su Zimo can hurt Tang Zi?" Lu Yu shook his head with a look of disbelief. "That's impossible, right? We've seen for ourselves how strong Tang Zi is. That Su Zimo looks so weak. What can he do?" "That's right. Up till now, he has not killed a single person. It's clear that he's timid and gentle. If the county governor had not brought him here, given his guts, he might not have dared to take part in the hunting meet," another city lord said. The city lord of Absolute Thunder City nodded as well. "If this continues, there will be fewer black immortals in the 10 Absolute Hell. In the end, even if that person makes a move, it will be difficult for him to enter the hunting ranking." "Was I wrong?" Prince Yuan's murmured in deep thought. "Your Highness, Ying Fei and the others are about to enter the cave. Su Zimo won't be able to hide this time round and will definitely die. Haha." Lu Yu chuckled. Chapter 1943. Honest Man. Chapter 1943. Honest Man. Ying Fei led everyone into the cave and stopped after a few steps. "Boss Ying, what's wrong?" a black immortal asked. "Someone's here." Ying Fei's eyes shone brightly as he glared at the darkness ahead and said slowly. The hearts of many cultivators skipped a beat and they turned nervous with wary expressions. Right then, a figure slowly appeared from the depths of the darkness ahead. Walking over slowly, It gradually became clearer under everyone's gazes. It was a man with delicate features. His green robes were upright and he looked slightly weak. If he was holding a scroll in his hands, he would look no different from a frail scholar. The green-robed cultivator was clean from head to toe and seemed out of place in the cruel and bloody environment of the 10 Absolute Hell. Many cultivators had been through many bloody battles and were filled with killing intent. All of them looked ferocious and the green-robed man truly looked harmless compared to them. Everyone's tense nerves gradually relaxed. Ying Fei was not careless. He knew very well that anyone who could enter the 10 Absolute Hell was not someone easy to deal with. Naturally, he would not be easily bewitched by the appearance of this green-robed cultivator. "You're alone?" Ying Fei raised his brows slightly and asked. "Yes." The green-robed cultivator nodded. Many cultivators heaved a sigh of relief. Some of the black immortals had ferocious gazes and could not wait to attack. However, Ying Fei did not let down his guard. After all, Tang Zi was also alone earlier on, but she killed more than 10 of them and left. Furthermore, Ying Fei thought of something deeper. Tang Zi had just left the cave and the green-robed cultivator was here as well. How was he not dead? "How should I address you?" Ying Fei asked. "I'm Su Zimo," the green-robed cultivator replied. "What are you doing in this cave?" Ying Fei continued asking with a bright gaze. Su Zimo said, "There's killing intent everywhere outside. I found this place by accident and hid here. Since you guys are here, I'll leave now and let you guys have this cave." Actually, Su Zimo could vaguely guess Tang Zi's intentions. However, he did not want to fight these people and comply with the wishes of the city lords and exalted immortals outside. With that said, Su Zimo headed out of the cave. This was indeed beyond Ying Fei's expectations. The cultivator before him looked extremely cowardly and posed no threat at all. Was he thinking too much? Some of the black immortals at the side could not help but look at Ying Fei repeatedly with questioning expressions. As long as Ying Fei nodded, they would attack. Just as Su Zimo was about to brush past the many black immortals, Ying Fei suddenly shouted, "Wait!" A few black immortals moved and blocked in front of Su Zimo with unfriendly expressions and ferocious gazes. Su Zimo stopped in his tracks and turned around. He looked at Ying Fei and asked with a fake smile, "Fellow Taoist, is there anything else? Take out your hunting badge and let me take a look." Ying Fei said indifferently. Under normal circumstances, the hunting badge was extremely important in the 10 Absolute Hell. It was related to the final ranking of the hunting ranking, and could not be shown to outsiders casually. However, Su Zimo did not care about the hunting ranking or hunting badge. Hesitating for a moment, he took out the hunting badge from his storage bag. Ying Fei could clearly see that the name written on the hunting badge was indeed Su Zimo. In other words, this person was not lying. However, the other side of the hunting badge was blank. In the 10 Absolute Hell, the number on the other side of the hunting badge would correspond to the number of cultivators one killed. For example, Ying Fei's hunting badge displayed the number 273. This proved that he had already killed 273 people personally. However, the fact that the hunting badge was blank meant that this person had not killed anyone since he entered the 10 Absolute Hell. From what that person said earlier on, it could be concluded that he was a cowardly and honest person. It was only then that Ying Fei was completely relieved. He glared at Su Zimo with evil intentions and asked with a smile, "Why are you here at the hunting meet if you're so timid?" Su Zimo smiled as well. "I was forcefully brought here." "Ha ha ha ha." Ying Fei could not help but burst into laughter. The surrounding black immortals burst into laughter as well. A cold glint flashed through Ying Fei's eyes as he nodded slightly. A black immortal with a pockmarked face standing behind Su Zimo understood and suddenly attacked with a murderous expression. He raised his saber and slashed towards Su Zimo's neck. The attack of the pockmarked black immortal was in Su Zimo's blind spot without any warning. That slash was almost certain. Everyone could almost see the bloody scene of the green-robed man's decapitated corpse. Swoosh! The saber tore through the air at an extremely fast speed. However, the slash missed. The pockmarked black immortal exerted all his strength and missed. He did not have time to retract his strength and staggered, almost falling to the ground. Ying Fei frowned. Everyone was surprised as well. The green-robed man was not dead. In fact, no one noticed how the green-robed cultivator dodged that fatal slash. Someone burst into laughter. Pocky Su, you're so useless even when you're given a chance. Let me do it instead. In the darkness, Su Zimo no longer had a smile on his face and his expression darkened completely. Indeed, he was unwilling to fight against the Black Immortals in the 10 Absolute Hell. That was because in his opinion, these Black Immortals were pitiful people who were controlled and manipulated by others. Many of them had no choice. However, that did not mean that he would continue to endure. Why? You're not letting me leave? Su Zimo looked at Ying Fei, who was not far away, and asked slowly. Ying Fei smiled. Given your character, even if you leave this place, you won't be able to survive for more than half a day. Why don't you stay here and become a number on our hunting badge? All right, I won't leave then, Su Zimo suddenly said. The wise recognize their circumstances. Ying Fei clapped and smiled. Su Zimo's expression was calm as he said indifferently, Now, I'll give you guys a chance. Get lost from here. Ha! What did you say? Ying Fei had a strange expression and could not believe what he heard. The pockmarked Black Immortal was already furious after his failure earlier on. Now, he could no longer hold it in and cursed, Bloody hell, you merely survived because you hid in this cave cowardly the entire time. Do you really think you're strong? Before his sentence was finished, the pockmarked Black Immortal attacked once more. Die! The pockmarked Black Immortal was enraged and channeled his essence spirit. He conjured a lesser divine power with one hand and raised his saber with the other, slashing down at Su Zimo's head. The moment his lesser divine power was formed, he felt a green shadow flash before him. A slender finger approached in his line of sight, but he could not dodge at all. So fast! A final thought flashed through the mind of the pockmarked Black Immortal. Poof! The next moment, he felt a sharp pain on his glabella and his essence spirit dissipated, losing consciousness. The pockmarked Black Immortal fell to the ground and a hole appeared on his glabella with fresh blood oozing. His essence spirit was destroyed and he was dead. Everyone was in an uproar. Chapter 1944. Complete Defeat. Chapter 1944. Complete Defeat. Nobody expected this seemingly weak green-robed man to suddenly attack. What was even more terrifying was that this person did not use any secret skills and merely extended a finger to penetrate the skull of the pockmarked Black Immortal. A single finger strike was all it took. Kill him! Everyone reacted quickly and roared. Earlier on, these people were shocked by Tang Zi's methods. They were angry and had nowhere to vent their frustrations. No matter how strong this green-robed scholar was, could he compare to that woman earlier on? Everyone summoned their dermic treasures and channeled their immortal arts to condense secret skills. They attacked one after another, forming a torrential wave that surged over. Instantly, the entire cave was filled with a resplendent glow and essence chi surged. With a calm expression, Su Zimo moved and shuttled through the gaps between many dermic treasures and divine powers with ease. Piak! Su Zimo arrived before a grade 9 Black Immortal and extended his palm, slapping the latter on the head before floating away without stopping. The grade 9 Black Immortal's gaze was dull and his expression was dark. His mind was already shattered by Su Zimo and his essence spirit was destroyed as he fell. Bang! In a flash, Su Zimo charged into someone's embrace. The Black Immortal could not control his body and was sent flying instantly. While he was in midair, he exploded into pieces because he could not withstand the tremendous power. Poof! Su Zimo punched a Black Immortal in the chest. Initially, the Black Immortal wore steel armor that was invulnerable. However, the armor was shattered by the punch and a bloody hole appeared in his chest with his heart crushed. Su Zimo twisted and turned in the crowd. His fingers, claws, fist, palm, arm, elbow, shoulder, leg, knee and foot were all killing weapons. He cultivated the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness and had many years of experience in Tianhuang Mainland. He had long honed a terrifying melee combat technique. After ascending to the upper world, Su Zimo fought against the Heaven Immortals and perfected Immortals in the abyss of the Dragon Abyss Star with the help of the Dragon King's corpse. After that battle, Su Zimo fused many melee combat techniques of the dragon race into his body, forming a killing technique suitable for the Green Lotus True Body. At that moment, even without using any dermic treasures or weapons, Su Zimo was an unstoppable humanoid weapon with his Green Lotus True Body. In just a dozen breaths, more than 20 black immortals died on the spot. Ying Fei was enraged. It was not easy for him to gather these people in the 10 absolute hell. Even against the pursuit of earth demons along the way, the losses were not this great. To think that a weak scholar would kill so many of his people in this cave. You have a death wish. In his rage, Ying Fei attacked. Before entering the 10 absolute hell, Ying Fei had long memorized troublesome cultivators like Li Tian and Tang Zi, and tried his best to avoid fighting them. He had never heard of Su Zimo. In his opinion, there was a limit to how strong Su Zimo was. Ying Fei was extremely fast and arrived before Su Zimo, grabbing the latter's head with both hands. His hands shone with a cold glint. He wore a pair of gloves made from the claws of an immortal eagle. They were perfect black-grade dermic treasures. Every single fingernail of the gloves was as sharp as an eagle's claw and could tear tigers and leopards apart. Ying Fei believed that no matter how strong Su Zimo's body was, he would not be able to defend against his eagle claws. Good timing. I was about to look for you. Sneering coldly, Su Zimo did not dodge or avoid the descending eagle claws and suddenly extended his hands to receive them. You want to take my eagle claws head-on with your body. You overestimate yourself. Ying Fei's eyes shone fiercely. Bang! The eagle claws collided with Su Zimo's palm and exerted strength at the same time. Suddenly, Ying Fei's expression changed starkly. The sharp eagle claws could not pierce Su Zimo's flesh. Not only that, the other party's palm was like a pair of iron pincers that released a terrifying power that struck his eagle claw gloves. Creak, creak. A jarring sound came from his eagle claw gloves. Ying Fei's eyes widened. Right in front of him, the eagle claw gloves were gradually deformed by Su Zimo's palms. He felt a sharp pain in his fists as well. Crack! A deafening sound echoed. The eagle claw gloves were crushed by Su Zimo. Ying Fei's fists exploded into a blood mist along with the gloves. Right now, the Green Lotus True Body was fearless even against connate black-grade dermic treasures. Ah! Ying Fei let out a tragic cry and his face turned pale. He staggered in retreat and fled out of the cave without hesitation, ignoring the serious injuries on his hands. A pair of gigantic eagle wings appeared behind Ying Fei and he sped towards the entrance of the cave. Although he was fast, Su Zimo was even faster. Boundless golden light, heavenly feet and ethereal wings burst forth at the same time. Almost in the blink of an eye, Su Zimo caught up to Ying Fei and shattered his head with the great Chaos Essence palm. Unable to defend against his severe injuries, Ying Fei died on the spot. Initially, the remaining dozens of black immortals wanted to join forces and continue attacking. However, everyone was scared out of their wits when they saw that Ying Fei was one of the top experts of the 10 absolute hell. Otherwise, he would not have been able to command them. However, Ying Fei could not last 3 rounds against the green-robed man. What was even more frightening was that Ying Fei's eagle claws were crushed by this person. His strength and methods had already surpassed the imagination of many cultivators. This was someone even more terrifying than Tang Zi. Escape! The remaining dozens of black immortals dispersed in defeats. At the same time, in the city lord's residence. Suddenly, Prince Yuan's was said, Ying Fei is dead. Many city lords and exalted immortals revealed bewildered expressions. The moment he said that, the name of the 8th on the hunting ranking, Ying Fei, faded gradually until it disappeared. Perfected Immortal Jing Yu smiled. Interesting. Before long, dozens of black immortals escaped from the cave. All of them were still in shock, as though they had encountered something extremely terrifying. The black immortals scrambled and fled in all directions without even turning back, disappearing into the surrounding forest before long. There was no longer anyone in the cave. That Su Zimo is still alive. The city lord of Absolute Thunder City was surprised. Prince Yuanzhua nodded and rubbed his chin, staring at the cave in deep thought. Let's see how long you can hide and how many surprises you can give me. He was getting more curious about Su Zimo. Perfected Immortal Jingyu guessed the intentions of Prince Yuanzhua and whispered, Your Highness, should I make a trip down personally to bring Su Zimo out? There's no need. Prince Yuanzhua waved it off. As long as he's in the 10 absolute hell, he won't be able to escape my control. Chapter 1945. Howling Wind Formation. Chapter 1945. Howling Wind Formation. Within the cave. Su Zimo did not chase after the remaining black immortals. Instead, he tidied up the battlefield. There were no treasures in the storage bags of the black immortals. Most of them were elixirs that could recover essence chi, and Su Zimo collected them casually. Su Zimo noticed something else. The names etched on the hunting badges of the black immortals that died had already vanished. On the blank side of his hunting badge, a number appeared, 29. This meant that he had just killed 29 people. Su Zimo felt that there was something strange about the hunting badge. However, he could not throw it away casually. That was because in the 10 absolute hell, the hunting ranking would sense it and punish anyone who lost their hunting badge. Su Zimo did not want to attract attention. If he wanted to head to the 10 absolute formation, he had to try his best to avoid the surveillance of the Mirage outside. If the City Lord and exalted immortals of the City Lord's residence saw him approaching the 10 absolute formation, they might be alerted and change the situation. Su Zimo had not even seen the 10 absolute formation before. Therefore, he could only imagine and could not think of any solution. Right now, his first step was to avoid the surveillance of the Mirage and head to the 10 absolute formation. Arriving at the entrance of the cave, Su Zimo sensed for a moment before retreating with a grim expression. Before he left the cave, he already felt the spying of the Mirage. This meant that someone was watching him from the City Lord's residence. I've been targeted. Su Zimo's eyes flickered in deep thought. Although he did not know what happened in the City Lord's residence, he could vaguely guess that his attack earlier on had most likely attracted the attention of others. Su Zimo was in no hurry to leave. Instead, he returned to the cave and examined it carefully. There was only a single entrance to leave this place. Furthermore, the mountains of the upper world were tough and the ground was firm. Even his strength could not shake it. Even if he could penetrate a hole, it would cause an even greater commotion and he would not be able to avoid the surveillance of the Mirage. After pondering for a long time, Su Zimo assumed a lotus position and closed his eyes to rest. He had already thought of a solution. However, he had to wait for a good opportunity. As time passed by slowly, the massacre outside intensified and the blood stench intensified. Su Zimo sat quietly in the cave, as though he had no intention of leaving. As he had expected, in the City Lord's residence, Prince Yuanzhua and perfected Immortal Jingyu were not the only ones. The other City Lords and exalted immortals had already noticed him. However, as time passed by, everyone gradually became impatient. The battle was intense elsewhere and it was quiet here. Everyone could only see a pitch-black hole without a single shadow. After a long time, someone could not hold on any longer. Many city lords and exalted immortals shifted their attention to the other cultivators. A night passed. Prince Yuanzhua was getting tired as well. No matter how interested and curious he was towards Su Zimo, there was no way he could keep watching. What is that person trying to do by hiding in this cave for so long? Prince Yuanzhua harumphed coldly. Perfected Immortal Jingyu said, Your Highness, we don't have to keep an eye on this place. It'll be fine as long as we take a look occasionally. Furthermore, if that person leaves the cave, he won't be able to hide from the Mirage. Prince Yuanzhua nodded. As the two of them conversed, a tiny ant crawled slowly on the mud of the cave and left. Naturally, the ant was also watched by the Mirage. However, there were bloody battles everywhere in the 10 absolute hell. Who would pay attention to an ant that was like dust? Even if anyone saw it, they would not take it to heart. The ant crawled slowly and before long, it arrived beneath an ancient tree. its tiny figure hid beneath a withered leaf. Suddenly, a divine power emanated from the ant. Immediately after, the withered leaf popped open and the ant disappeared. In its place was a butterfly the size of an infant's palm that flew in the direction of the 10 Absolute formation. The 10 Absolute Hell formed a space of its own with many living beings. This butterfly was only the most common one in the 10 Absolute Hell. However, be it the ant at the start or the butterfly at the back, they were all conjured by Su Zimo using his greater divine power, the 72 transformations. The 36 transformations was a lesser divine power and could only conjure sand, gravel and mud without any signs of life. The 72 transformations was a greater divine power and could transform into flowers, trees, birds and beasts. Back in the ancient battlefield of Tianhuang Mainland, Su Zimo comprehended many lesser and greater divine powers. The 36 transformations and 72 transformations were among them. Although Su Zimo was a grade 9 black immortal, his essence spirit cultivation had long broken through from the black essence realm to the earth realm. Even without using the innate divine power of the six-tusked divine elephant, he could release greater divine powers. Of course, out of caution, Su Zimo spent the entire night in the cave on purpose. He waited for the many exalted immortals and city lords of the city lord's residence to be exhausted before releasing the 72 transformations and turning into a tiny ant to leave. After leaving the range of the cave, he transformed into a butterfly to increase his speed and flew towards the 10 Absolute formation. Everything happened right in front of the Mirage eye. However, no one expected that Su Zimo could release the greater divine power, the 72 transformations, transform into other living beings and leave the cave right under their noses. Even with the 72 transformations, Su Zimo did not dare to transform into a living being with a large target lest he attracted attention. He continued forward and avoided some cultivators and earth demons with his spirit perception. In less than half a day, he arrived at his destination. It was an endless forest with towering ancient trees that were lush. However, a gigantic forbidden ground appeared in the middle of the forest with a terrifying aura that no living being dared to approach. At first glance, the forbidden ground seemed empty. However, Su Zimo had already seen some traces of array formations in the forbidden ground. This was the center of the 10 Absolute Hell, the 10 Absolute formation. Su Zimo did not dare to approach. Just by lingering around the edge, he could already sense the terrifying aura released by the 10 Absolute formation. He maintained his butterfly form as he observed the traces of the 10 Absolute formation intently. However, after looking at it for an hour, he felt a splitting headache and had no clue. It was way too complicated. He did not even know how to deal with a single immortal formation, let alone 10. Pondering for a moment, Su Zimo took out a supreme black-grade dermic treasure from his storage bag and threw it towards the forbidden ground ahead. Suddenly, a wild gust of wind howled above the initially empty forbidden ground. Right in front of Su Zimo, a gigantic black wind rose from the ground and devoured the supreme black-grade dermic treasure instantly. In the blink of an eye, the black wind dissipated. As for the supreme black-grade dermic treasure, it was turned into ashes by the black wind and floated down. If he was not wrong, the area ahead should be the Howling Wind formation. After pondering for a moment, Su Zimo took out an earth-grade dermic treasure he had picked up in the abyss of the Dragon Abyss Star and threw it into the Howling Wind formation. Another black wind devoured the earth-grade dermic treasure. In less than a breath, the black wind dissipated and the earth-grade dermic treasure had already shattered into a pile of dim metal pieces that fell to the ground. Su Zimo was secretly alarmed. Based on the might of the Howling Wind formation, his green lotus true body would most likely be destroyed with his flesh separated within a single breath. Chapter 1946. Challenging the Formation. Chapter 1946. Challenging the Formation. Throughout the entire process, although various changes happened in the 10 Absolute formation, the Mirage eye in the firmaments did not seem to notice it. Su Zimo pondered for a moment. There was no way he could dispel the formation. If he were to wait here to dispel the 10 Absolute formation, he might not be able to do it even after his lifespan was up. Since he could not dispel the formation, he could only think of a way to barge in forcefully. He did have a treasure that might be able to withstand the power of the Howling Wind formation. The Hell Suppression Tripod. Su Zimo's spirit consciousness moved and the Hell Suppression Tripod flew out of his consciousness, turning into a green streak of light that entered the Howling Wind formation. The Hell Suppression Tripod had just entered the Howling Wind formation when the formation seemed to have sensed something. The light of the formation patterns intensified and a wild wind howled with a jarring sound. The black wind from earlier on surged over from all directions, forming a tornado that connected heaven and earth that swept towards the Hell Suppression Tripod. The Howling Wind formation seemed to be able to sense the strength of the Hell Suppression Tripod as well, and that was the reason for its strong reaction. Su Zimo was nervous as he glared at the Hell Suppression Tripod in the Howling Wind formation. The black wind howled and drowned the Hell Suppression Tripod instantly. The wild wind was like a saber and was extremely sharp. When it blew the Hell Suppression Tripod, there was a clanging sound of metal clashing. Suddenly, Su Zimo sensed that the black wind wanted to drag the Hell Suppression Tripod into the depths of the Howling Wind formation. Not good. Su Zimo was alarmed and retracted the Hell Suppression Tripod hurriedly. In the Howling Wind formation, the wild wind howled repeatedly in an extremely violent manner. It took a while before everything returned to normal. Su Zimo glanced at the Hell Suppression Tripod. The Hell Suppression Tripod did not suffer much of a blow and the black wind in the Howling Wind formation did not leave any marks on it. According to Heavenly Wolf, this was an Emperor weapon that once created an era. Even if an Emperor weapon was broken, it was indestructible. However, it was still unrealistic for Su Zimo to hide in the Hell Suppression Tripod and barge into the Howling Wind formation. Although the Hell Suppression Tripod was an Emperor weapon, it was not a sealed spatial dermic weapon. The power of the wild wind was pervasive and could surge into the tripod through the top of it. He could not withstand it at all. Back in the black hole, he could seal the mouth of the tripod with the 9 heavens living soil. That was because the black hole could not devour the Hell Suppression Tripod, and it could not devour Su Zimo within. However, that could not be done within the Howling Wind formation. The 9 heavens living soil was a destiny dermic treasure derived from the creation green lotus. The power of the dermic treasure would only increase as his cultivation increased. The 9 heavens living soil might not be damaged in the Howling Wind formation, but it might not be able to defend against the power of the wild wind. The wild wind was violent and pervasive. At that time, it would break through the 9 heavens living soil and surge into the tripod. He would definitely die. Su Zimo thought for a moment and flapped his wings, flying along the edge of the 10 absolute formation. Before long, he arrived in another area. This area was completely different from the Howling Wind formation earlier on. If he was not wrong, it should be another Immortal formation of the 10 absolute formation. The ground of the Immortal formation was blood red and emitted a nauseating blood stench. This time round, Su Zimo did not test the waters with his weapon. Instead, he tossed a corpse that he had hidden in his storage bag previously. The moment the corpse entered the Immortal formation, a stream of blood appeared from within and coiled around it before it even landed. Immediately after, the corpse melted into a pool of blood and scattered on the ground without a single bone left. Su Zimo was secretly speechless. From the looks of it, even if he hid in the bronze square tripod, it would be difficult for him to defend against the corrosion of the blood water. Furthermore, there was a high chance that the bronze square tripod would attract endless blood if it entered the formation. This should be the blood transformation formation. Su Zimo did not stay in the vicinity and continued to circle around the 10 absolute formation. Thereafter, he passed through the frost formation, red silk formation and golden light formation. The 3 immortal formations were extremely powerful and unpredictable. Although the bronze square tripod could withstand the power of the 3 immortal formations, it could not protect Su Zimo and break through the immortal formations to reach the center of the 10 absolute formation. Is there really no other way? Su Zimo was a little discouraged. Against an absolute power like the 10 absolute formation that could even kill perfected immortals, he could not help but feel helpless. As he thought of countermeasures, Su Zimo continued forward. Before long, he arrived before another immortal formation. The immortal formation was filled with turbid waves and steam. If he was not wrong, it should be the flood formation. Su Zimo sighed internally. This time round, He could tell without even testing the waters that it would be difficult for him to cross the flood formation with the hell suppression tripod. The power of the flood was even more ferocious than the wild wind. Even if he hid in the bronze square tripod, the flood could drown him. Just as Su Zimo was about to continue forward, he suddenly thought of something. Something was amiss. Under normal circumstances, if there was no external stimulation, the situation within the Immortal formation would be relatively calm and there would not be such turbid waves. Su Zimo stopped in his tracks hurriedly and looked towards the flood formation. Indeed, he discovered something unusual. In the torrential waves, a blurry figure could be vaguely seen advancing with difficulty. Someone was challenging the formation. To think that apart from him, there would be someone else in the 10 Absolute Hell who would risk their lives to pass through the 10 Absolute formation. Could it be her? Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as a purple figure appeared in his mind. Within the flood formation, the water chi was dense and rumbled continuously. Even he could not see the figure within. Against the gush of the current, the figure advanced step by step in the flood. However, before the figure could advance far, it would be knocked back by a torrent and retreat once more. The cycle repeated itself. Su Zimo denied his previous guess. Like him, Tang Zi was only a grade 9 black immortal and definitely could not withstand the might of the flood formation. Su Zimo focused his gaze for a while and gradually noticed something. The figure seemed to be covered by a barrier of light that was formed from some unknown power, protecting it from the surrounding flood. This person must have relied on this barrier to defend against the flood formation and walk dozens of feet within. At that moment, the barrier could no longer withstand the pressure and cracks appeared on it, as though it could collapse at any moment. Boom! Boom! The turbid waves rumbled and a wave charged over heavily, slapping the figure. The figure could no longer hold on and was sent flying by the turbid wave, almost falling out of the edge of the flood formation. This time round, Su Zimo could see it clearly. The figure in the light barrier was Tang Zi. Tang Zi's face was pale, as though she had suffered a huge blow and spat out a mouthful of blood. At that moment, the barrier on her body was filled with cracks and was extremely battered. It could not withstand the next wave of the flood formation. She also realized the danger and staggered, retreating out of the formation hurriedly. Right then, Su Zimo's spirit consciousness moved and 3 figures sped over from the forest not far away. Chapter 1947. Gathering of the 5 Poisons. Chapter 1947. Gathering of the 5 Poison. From the looks of it, the 3 of them should be on the same side. The 3 of them split into 3 directions and charged towards Tang Zi at an extremely fast speed. Tang Zi had just retreated from the flood formation and had yet to catch her breath when their killing moves descended. The 3 of them are not weak. Su Zimo thought to himself. The timing of their attacks was ingenious. Tang Zi was severely injured and had just escaped from danger. Her 5 senses were invaded by the flood formation and had yet to recover completely. This was her weakest moment. Furthermore, the 3 of them exuded a nauseating stench. It was clear that they carried toxic poison. 3 flying swords shone with a faint green glow and stabbed over from above her head, left and right at the same time. Immobilize! At the same time, the 3 black immortals channeled their essence spirits and released their lesser divine powers, the body immobilization technique. 3 body immobilization techniques descended on Tang Zi. If it was any other grade 9 black immortal, they would definitely die in such encirclement. Tang Zi was indeed impressive. Although her 5 senses had yet to recover, her instinct to avoid danger was still present after cultivating the Tao of assassination all year round. Without hesitation, Tang Zi opened her mouth slightly and released the immortal whale sound. She had only released her immortal whale sound halfway when she triggered her injuries once more and spat out a mouthful of blood. Even so, the burst of the immortal whale sound dispersed the divine power of the body immobilization technique. The moment Tang Zi released the immortal whale sound, she suddenly fell and scurried out, almost lying flat on the ground. Clang! Sparks flew as 2 flying swords collided. However, she could not dodge the flying sword that descended from the skies.
She realized that as well and reached out to grab the incoming flying sword bare-handed.
The sword shone brightly. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes slightly. That flying sword was a perfect-grade dermic treasure. A flash of blood appeared. The sword pierced Tang Zi's palm but could not sever it. The flying sword tore through her flesh and bones, unable to cut further. Su Zimo was not surprised by that. He had fought Tang Zi before and she had a strong physique and bloodline. It was clear that she had cultivated some body tempering technique. Furthermore, Su Zimo could vaguely sense that Tang Zi's bones seemed to contain some sort of immense power. However, it was suppressed and could not be released. The current scene confirmed his guess. Although a perfect-grade flying sword pierced Tang Zi's flesh, it could not hurt her bones. Of course, the flying sword was laced with poison. It was considered a success as long as Tang Zi's flesh was pierced. Even in the face of such danger, Tang Zi was expressionless, as though she could not feel any pain or the poison from the sword. The three of them had already closed in. One of them wielded a gigantic spear with both hands and danced, coiling towards Tang Zi like a living spirit snake. The other two formed a triangular formation and charged over as well. Scorpion tail fist. Sky spider hand. Both of them hollered. The first man with the spear shouted as well. "This person is troublesome to deal with. Hurry and help." Before his sentence was finished, a commotion broke out in the forest not far away. Su Zimo frowned slightly. The three of them had helpers. In the forest far away, a gigantic pitch-black centipede that was dozens of feet long darted out. Its 100 feet moved with an ear-piercing sound as it scurried over at an astonishing speed. There was someone sitting on the pitch-black centipede. A frog's croak sounded from another direction. Immediately after, a figure appeared. In a strange manner, he hopped around the leaves of the forest like a toad and approached the battlefield rapidly. Venomous snake, spider, scorpion, toad and centipede. The 5 poisons are all gathered. Su Zimo sneered internally. Right now, the 5 of them were on the hunting ranking. If they joined forces, even a group of dozens might not be able to take advantage of them. But now, it was unprecedented for the 5 poisons to attack and kill someone. Tang Zi had a calm expression as she extended her left hand. In a flash, she grabbed the gigantic spear that resembled a spirit snake and squeezed it. Blood splattered all over the spear. Just as the Black Immortal waved his spear, a poisonous snake slithered out from his sleeves and coiled around the spear, prepared to launch a fatal attack at any moment. Unfortunately, Tang Zi saw through it with a single glance. Gripping her spear, Tang Zi threw the poison sword in her hands towards the person's face while crushing the snake. The 2 actions were completed almost at the same time. Furthermore, the power and speed of Tang Zi's slash were way too fast. The 2 of them were extremely close and the Black Immortal could not dodge at all. The poison sword entered his face and pierced his consciousness, destroying his essence spirit. At the same time, the scorpion tail fist that was filled with pitch-black fog and the sky spider hand that emitted a purple glow descended. Suddenly, Tang Zi's figure vanished from the spot. In its place was the Black Immortal whose face was pierced by her sword earlier on. Nether swap. After killing that person, Tang Zi did not stop at all and released her lesser divine power, swapping positions with that person. When he saw that, Su Zimo could not help but praise internally. It was as though Tang Zi was born with that combat talent and all her techniques were fused together naturally. If Tang Zi had been a tad slower earlier on, she might have died. Bang! The sky spider hand and scorpion tail fist descended but struck the dead Black Immortal. The Black Immortal was already dead and his entire body rotted instantly after being struck by that punch. In the blink of an eye, he turned into a pool of yellow blood. Both of them were shocked when their attacks missed. In a flash, Tang Zi had already returned and charged towards the 2 of them. She had to get rid of the 2 of them as soon as possible. Otherwise, the situation would be even more dangerous when the centipede and toad arrived. Bang! 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 The 3 of them fought with speed and in the blink of an eye, they exchanged dozens of blows. Their figures flickered continuously in a dizzying manner. Suddenly, the 3 figures stopped. Thereafter, the 2 of them fell and their life force drained rapidly, they could no longer survive. Only Tang Zi stood on the spot expressionlessly, panting slightly. If she was not injured and was in peak condition, the two of them would have died a long time ago. The fight had aggravated her injuries once more. Scorpion, Sky Spider. Demonis, I'll have you pay with your life. Two furious roars sounded from the side. The remaining two people had already arrived. One of them rode on a pitch-black centipede and soared into the air, lunging towards Tang Zi. Poison chi spread and demonic chi filled the air. The other person was sprawled on the ground on all fours. Suddenly, his lips were tightly shut and his cheeks puffed up like a gigantic toad. Poof! The person opened his mouth and spat out a ball of sticky poison. Tang Zi composed herself and was prepared to attack again to kill the remaining two. However, she suddenly felt her head spin and her limbs went limp. Her body swayed and her consciousness turned blurry. Am I going to die? Tang Zi sighed internally. Chapter 1948. True Dragon Anti-Water Bead. Chapter 1948. True Dragon Anti-Water Bead. Tang Zi was severely injured and had fought consecutively. Her bloodline could not suppress the poison and finally could not hold on. She could not muster any strength even as the remaining two lunged over. Perhaps it was because she cultivated the Tao of assassination and tempered her mind all year round, but even at the brink of death, her heart was extremely calm without any emotions. Of course, many things flashed through her mind in that instant. What a pity. I didn't manage to clear the Immortal formation after all. That's good too. If I head to the Netherworld, won't I have a chance to see father and mother? Sigh, if I hadn't lost my dark daggers, I wouldn't have been injured by these poisonous beings earlier on. I hope my dark daggers won't be wasted in the hands of that person. Tang Zi bit her lip as a figure flashed through her mind. I'm about to die. How could my final thought be that detestable and shameless person? Chi! Suddenly, a sharp and faint sound came from midair, as though a sharp weapon had torn through the air. Immediately after, Tang Zi felt an extremely terrifying killing intent and her heart skipped a beat. Not good! Suddenly, the toad shrieked. Immediately after, the voice stopped. Tang Zi looked up instinctively. A white sword chi never entered the person's glabella and penetrated him instantly, destroying his essence spirit. On the other side, another similar sword chi streaked past the gigantic pitch-black centipede and vanished. The pitch-black centipede's body was sliced into two by a sword chi and black blood filled the skies. The cultivator on the centipede was not spared either and was killed by the slash. Two sword chi killed these two experts in the 10 absolute hell. Tang Zi was stunned. She was not dead. Instinctively, Tang Zi looked towards the forest not far away but could not find any traces of cultivators. She could not determine where the two sword chi came from at all. Who was it? Someone from the 10 absolute hell would save her. Why did that person not appear after attacking? Many thoughts flashed through Tang Zi's mind. Then, as though she realized something, she raised her head and looked at the Mirage eye in the firmaments. She hurriedly perked up and staggered into the forest at the side. Tang Zi slapped her storage bag and took out a pitch-black paper umbrella, opening it. Mysterious runes were etched on the umbrella. Tang Zi conjured hand seals and chanted a few words. The runes on the paper umbrella lit up and enveloped her. Her figure gradually faded and disappeared from the spot along with the pitch-black paper umbrella. A butterfly sprawled on a branch not far away witnessed everything. That butterfly was naturally conjured by Su Zimo. The two sword chi earlier on were also heaven-slaying sword chi released by him. If Tang Zi could deal with the 5 poisons, he would naturally not attack. There was a high chance that the fight here would attract attention, and Su Zimo did not want to expose himself. However, he could not stand by idly when he saw that Tang Zi's life was hanging by a thread. Tang Zi knew so much about the Thunder Emperor and had taken the risk to barge into the Immortal formation. This meant that there was a high chance she was on the Thunder Emperor's side. If that was not the case, there was no need for her to risk her life. Because of that, Su Zimo had to save Tang Zi as well.
Of course, after he attacked, he was worried that he would attract the attention of the Mirage Eye and did not appear, maintaining his butterfly form. Su Zimo was secretly surprised when he saw Tang Zi open the black umbrella and retract her figure. It was clear that the black umbrella was not an ordinary item. It did not make Tang Zi disappear. Instead, it fused the surrounding environment into one and could even deceive the Mirage Eye. Actually, Tang Zi was still on the spot. However, even with Su Zimo's eyesight, he could not see her figure. Of course, Su Zimo could still roughly determine Tang Zi's location with his spirit perception. If he reverted to his true form and channeled illumination and nether glow, he should be able to see through Tang Zi's tracks as well. After Tang Zi retracted her figure, she was in no hurry to leave. Instead, she consumed elixirs on the spot and rested for a while to stabilize her injuries. It was unknown what bloodline Tang Zi possessed, but after her injuries were stabilized, the poison in her body was no longer a threat and was squeezed out bit by bit. Before long, her face regained some color. Of course, the injuries caused by the flood formation would not recover completely within a short period of time. Tang Zi stood up and walked into the distance. Su Zimo flapped his wings and followed slowly. Tang Zi held the black umbrella and circled the forest. Before long, she found a cave and burrowed in. This place won't be spied on by the Mirage Eye. Fellow Taoist, you've followed me for so long. Come on out. Tang Zi said. After a while, a figure appeared out of thin air in the cave. The person wore a clean green robe and had refined features. He nodded to her with a smile. Indeed, it's you. Tang Zi did not look surprised when she saw Su Zimo. You guessed it? Su Zimo asked with a smile. Tang Zi was silent. Apart from Su Zimo, she could not think of anyone else in the 10 absolute hell who could kill 2 of the 5 poisons silently and follow her. I owe you a favor and will return it in the future, Tang Zi said expressionlessly. Su Zimo smiled. There's no need for the future. You can return it now. What do you want me to do? Tang Zi asked. Su Zimo said, I'll ask you a few questions. Just answer them truthfully. That's all. Tang Zi could not believe it. Su Zimo did not explain and went straight to the point. Why did you challenge the immortal formation? Tang Zi lowered her head slightly in silence. This matter involved her secret and she could not say it. As though he could tell that she was troubled, Su Zimo did not continue asking about this and quickly shifted to another question. How did you withstand the impact of the flood formation? Su Zimo asked. Tang Zi was relieved. As long as it was not some important secret, she would tell him everything. Tang Zi took out a bead that was filled with cracks from her storage bag and handed it to Su Zimo. This is the true dragon anti-water bead that my master refined with the true dragon Dao fruit. The value of this bead is definitely not inferior to any sentient dermic treasure. Unfortunately, it still can't withstand the power of the flood formation. Tang Zi said, I don't have the bloodline of a true dragon and can't activate the full power of this true dragon anti-water bead. However, this treasure was destroyed in my hands. Su Zimo lamented internally as well. Although he did not have the bloodline of a true dragon, he had a dragon phoenix essence spirit. There was a high chance that he could pass through the flood formation if he activated the true dragon anti-water bead with his essence spirit. However, now that the bead was shattered and completely destroyed, this method no longer worked. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.